Welcome to Chew the Chat Podcast.
Physical, you're not allowed to be near humans, are you?
Let's interview dogs.
Anyway, cheers, Matthew. Matthew Frost, friend of the show. First ever guest we had on Chew the Chat. This was back in the day before video.
What concerns me is I'm back.
Yeah, well, you listen, you're in full dapper attire for our listeners and viewers. First episode was a two-part. It was the first episode I put out. January the 27th, so we're coming up on a year, and it was fantastic. We covered a lot. We covered, early days, some of your travelling, and I think we finished up around the love of martial arts turning into a business. But you've got many stories, and I want to dig in. I mean, one of the fascinating things we talked about for people who want to go back and have a look or listen, it is available on YouTube, the audio. You talked about driving around Europe in the
truck.
In the truck of World War II. How big is it?
It's a 12-ton, six before Leyland Hippo, 1945. I still got it, yeah.
I've been
driving it recently. I just charged the batteries up the other day, took it for a spin. But the radiator's leaking, so I'm driving through Saxony and people are like, water's leaking, mate. And I'd be like that. Just like a waterfall coming out the bottom of the engine. It's the least of my worries. It's got no brakes. No, it's amazing.
Well, when you were telling the story about driving around Europe, and doing what,
23 flat out.
23 flat out. Mm. It's red hot in somewhere like Spain, Braking is a two-man job. That was mesmerising and a testament to your character.
Well, I forgot. We talked about, because it was in the heat, it was just insane. Yeah, we had figured out, it didn't take me long to figure out, because I could basically collapse. I got out of the cab and collapsed from the heat exhaustion. Because I do like 12-hour runs in it at 23 mile an hour. You're not covering a lot of ground. If you're going up the Pyrenees, it was literally 5 miles an hour all day long, literally sitting there, just let the engine do its thing.
Loud, noisy,
cotton wool in the ears because I didn't have headphones. So you'd be, They had a stereo with blast music, you could hear it, you could just hear it. And I remember all them stories and I'd forgotten them until the other day because it was cold and it's England and I was in it. And it was in France, it's like minus 10, and the roof's here. So if you sat up straight, you can't see out. The roof drops down in front, so you'd end up, hunched up like this, and there's a big giant windscreen wiper bolted to the middle of the window, so you can't see through it. So you lift it up so you can see, so it opens. So you're doing 23. And it's raining and sleet and it's minus 10 in France. So I'd have scars. My mum knitted me this scarf when I was a kid because I was a Doctor Who fan, and it was like 9 meters long. So I still had it, and it was like wrapped round and round. And motorbike gloves on, and sometimes put an helmet on, like motorbike helmet, but driving it like trying to keep just frozen. But yeah, we didn't stop.
I know, and that is. To think of that today, you were in it the other day. And I've spoken to Paula, your wife, and I think I said to you on that first episode, how did Paula put up with that? She's a
trooper.
She's a trooper.
Yeah, she's not so keen now.
Yeah.
But, but at the time, I still love it. It's not something, I do wonder when I get in it, although that's changing a little bit. When I got in it last year a lot and drove it, I used to like the memory of that person that did that was like, what the hell? That's so bizarre. I can't imagine ever doing that. But I'm driving it a lot lately, and I'm starting to imagine him doing that again.
Oh, wow.
I'd quite happily drive off to Portugal or Poland in it again.
I think you could probably fill it up with other people who wouldn't normally take it up, but given the current climate, a lot of people think, fuck it. Yeah.
Let's get out of here.
5 mile an hour that way. Well, that was a really intriguing part of the podcast for me, and as we went through your story, we only barely touched different versions of different chapters of your life, but we did sort of get towards business, and what I wanted to talk to you about today, not predominantly, but obviously I want to get to it. You sponsor the podcast, the audio version of this podcast that goes out. We've got the Cryo Lab Lincoln, which you run and own and promote, and try and get to as many people as possible. And I wanted to ask a bit about cryo and how that journey's been so far, you know, and what do you see the future looking like for things like cryotherapy and, you know, general interaction with humans and trying to find therapies and look after our health. You know, we're I think we're all probably aware of our immune systems more than ever.
Yeah. No, it's been really positive actually. And obviously the lockdown is a kick in the teeth every time it happens for everyone. But during lockdown 1, towards the end of it, and times and dates I'm lost with, but towards the end of the lockdown 1, we was allowed to reopen the cryotherapy. The gym was still shut. And if you remember, the cryotherapy was down the bottom of the gym in the corner near the mats. And I reopened it and it was getting some bookings and it was doing okay. And I was, because the gym was empty, I wasn't in martial art mode, training mode, you know, coaching mode, that side of the business mode. I was just, you know, running people through the cryo. And I was having conversations and I just realised just the conversations were above my pay grade, a lot of them. So I was just listening. I didn't pretend to know what I was on about. You know, I had ladies visit me with MS and they was talking to me about their MS and why they were using it. And people visited me for all sorts of reasons. And I just stood and looked around the gym while I was talking to one lady. She was telling me about her ailments. And I just went, this isn't the appropriate place for the cryo. You know, you walk in to a gym. Often there was people training on the mats. I'd even run it when I'd have white collar on. There'd be 70 people on the mats training. The room would just be like a steam in there, a mist of fog and sweat and loud music. And then they'd be like, if you just walk down this corridor past this cage wall, and then I'm going to go in the cage at the bottom with you, and I'm going to put you in a machine and close the doors and press it. It's going to freeze you while all these people watch, you know.
Grunting and banging.
Yeah. So like, I was like, I mean, when I said it out loud, I was like, you moron, of course it is. Like, you know what I mean? Like, but I was in that mode, cryo this, that, no, just do more stuff. And it just gave me time to think. So I went, right, okay. So started looking at other venues around Lincoln, thinking of getting a separate business premises for that and the float and a few other things. And then, because I couldn't figure out how to fit it into the academy sensibly without spending far too much money. And then Paula just said something one day. She went, why don't you just do the entrance to the martial art academy there where the roller shutter door? And as soon as she said it, I just went, perfect. That's exactly what we need to do.
Powerful Paula.
Yeah, it's just a simple little thing. But as soon as she said it, everything else fell into place. It was like, so that, yep, done. So we just had a massive refit towards the end of the first lockdown. Invested quite a lot of money. Went for it. So now you arrive at the cryotherapy place. I mean, you've seen it. So you arrive. You wouldn't know the gym exists unless you know the gym exists. And you can come and you can go and float and cryo, and it's a separate sort of, I wouldn't say spa-like, but professional. Yeah,
it is. Yeah,
professional premises.
Sets the tone. Yeah.
Yeah, it does. Yeah, and once we started advertising again and building a new clientele, it just took off. I was just sold out every week. It was fantastic, and I did my stats a week or two ago, and it's pretty much 89% returning customers. Everyone that visits pretty much returns, and the feedback's just incredible. And I've started to understand myself personally. I've started to understand a lot more about it as well, because it's new technology. So a lot of stuff, a lot of feedback I'm getting is like, oh, okay, don't know why, never heard of that. You know, rare diseases like myofascial pain syndrome, and someone came with that, and just 3-4 sessions after 20 years of serious pain and morphine. She came in the second time. She looked like a completely different person. It was absolutely incredible transformation. It's just like she walked in and I was just like, oh, hello. She went, people say I'm not a bitch anymore. And she was just like laughing. And so I mentioned it to her on about a 3rd or 4th visit, whichever her last one was. And she was laughing. I was like, she's completely transformed her. People ask, where have you had your facial and where are you doing your treatments? And she's like, oh no, I'm having they're like, what? And I'm the same. I was like, oh, okay. I mean, I've never heard of the disease or ailment, whatever it is. But I'm starting to learn more, like, you know, especially with the anxiety and depression side of things, because that's an interesting area for me. Not what I was expecting when I got the cryo, but because it became such a large part of the feedback, I started looking into that. And it's kind of obvious, the serotonin, dopamine and endorphin release that you get, the neuroadrenaline release, it basically gives you a nice kickstart. Because some of the feedback's ridiculous, as in like, just like, well, it hasn't done that, it can't, that's bizarre. But and you know, like one guy's a DJ, and shout out to Dale, and he he lost his motivation for DJing. He'd been DJing 20 years and he didn't enjoy it anymore. He wasn't motivated, didn't, get in there. And he came one session and he sends me, links me to his videos every week. He does. And he's like, I can hear the music again. My hearing's back and da-da-da. And it's like, well, it's actually not the hearing. I didn't say that to him. He'll hear this now, but it's been 6 months, 7 months since. So he's on his trajectory now. But it's just giving him that kickstart, that little boost, that little lift in life.
Yeah.
And he's awake again, if you like, for want of a terrible scientific term. But he's just, he's on it, and it's just giving him that little kickstart he needed, and he's off. And he's, this is how it can be. And he's back into his music, and he's enjoying it, and he doesn't need to come back and do another session. It's terrible for business. It's fantastic for.
Well, I try and just educate people about it every week on the audio intros and outros, when obviously I give you guys a shout as sponsors of the podcast. And I always kind of am aware that I am not a scientist, and I as much as I read, it's a different thing having a direct experience of something and reading stuff. And at this level, when you start talking about cellular biology and all these things, it is a lot of information to understand. And you need to understand one thing to understand the next. But when I'm doing, my chat about the cryo on the audio versions of this podcast, I'm always trying to push people to read about it, because if you do a bit of reading, you can find lots and lots of information online. I'm sure Aidan will pull something up now. But when you start to read it in front of your face, and you realise, like you just said, anxiety, depression, skin ailments, just general uplift, awakening, sort of. It seems too good to be true. Yeah. And it seems ludicrous that you would just get cold.
No, I've got one and it does.
Yeah. 3 minutes and somehow you can set yourself on a trajectory, whether it's, like you say, waking up or actually becoming a regular user and having a whole host of just... Because in the end, whether you're fixing your bad back or your skin ailment or whatever, it seems to me that by doing it regularly, people can... create a whole new, it sounds ludicrous, but like a version of themselves. Literally, like a reawakening.
Yeah.
And the more you read about cold therapy and the actual science, it is fascinating.
No, it is. It's bizarre, because it's like you say, I at the beginning, I was like, well, this guy came in and he did this and da-da-da. And then in the end, you have to back off, because I was excited about it. And you go, I just sound like a snake oil salesman. I sound ridiculous, because it does. And I'm like, but... The thing I've got on the wall when you walk in, cryotherapy, good for depression, anxiety, sports recovery, insomnia, and it lists all these things, and you look at it and go, really? What? 3 minutes? All on? No way. But with a basic understanding, a lot of those things are linked to inflammation, a lot of those things are linked to, and you go, the number one thing that it does is just blitz inflammation, and a lot of things are linked to that, arthritis, and I had. Going off on a tangent, because I had my first experience, and there's no evidence for this. So I haven't had an injury since I've had the cryo, and I didn't realise until recently. And I always have injuries. I train like I shouldn't at my age. Probably I get thrown around a lot by you guys a lot younger than me, and I'm nearly always carrying a neck or a shoulder injury. Not to the point of needing hospital, although sometimes, and I don't go to hospital. I understand that they'll tell me to go home and not use it, so I just work it all out myself. But I have an ongoing back injury that I did from a deadlift 20 years ago, and I have to manage it. Excuse me, and it's fine. And I triggered it a month or so ago. I'd done some serious wrestling sessions, and I was digging holes in clay for like all week, 12 hours a day, and my back was under a lot of stress, and I just put my shoe on and it went, and it was the same injury, and I was like, I know what's going to happen here. A month of rehab, can't train, can't do anything, and I went, Paul, just drive us in. Couldn't get dressed. Paul had to dress me and drove me to the academy.
Wow, that debilitating.
Oh yeah, it's probably it's excruciating pain. It's horrendous. And she drove me in. They helped me into the cryo unit. Did one session. Went home. I'd freed off. I got my movement back, because I was just literally couldn't. I was like, the pain was so bad, your body, I was locking up. And I can't. Just like that. And one session, so I went home and I freed off a little bit, and I was walking around and I could move, and I was just, feeling it out. I went back in that evening, did one more session. Instantly, zero pain, none. I could tell it hadn't mended it. I could tell exactly where it's sort of like from from my whole body going into sort of like a stress response from the pain I was in, to like all that disappearing, all the muscles relaxing, to the point of pain, the actual injury itself was like a little pinprick just there. I was like, oh, it's there. So I was up a ladder the next day, working, loading my roof up. I was doing a kettlebell class 2 days later. As long as I controlled my movement and didn't do anything stupid that aggravated that specific point, I was back training the next day. And I was like, I get that response from a lot of people over the last year of running it. And I'm like, oh, that's great. Yeah. But I hadn't experienced that myself. So a lot of people coming in with back injuries from training and, and managing pain through serious back injuries like car accidents, seriously done. And I was like, oh, okay, but understanding it cerebrally, that word that I nearly tried to say then. Yeah. Understanding it with brain. Yeah. And then experiencing it. And I was like, this is what everyone's on about. And it was a fantastic feeling to actually experience that. Yeah. And then the penny dropped. I was like, I haven't had an injury in like over a year. And because I use it regularly, and I'd read these studies. It's like, you read the studies and it's, prevention of injuries in players of da-da-da. And I've got all the studies from Dr. Ronda and everyone. I was like, I'd read all them studies about it preventing injuries in training and this and that. And then I was like, but I haven't had an injury in over a year. Yeah. None. And that's the first one. And that was, I'm not surprised I had an injury. That was a crazy week for me.
How often do you use it then yourself?
Weekly.
You're weekly?
Weekly without fail, pretty much. Yeah. Unless I've sold all the slots by mistake and not saved myself.
I love that.
And then the last one that goes in, I do them.
And for you as well, as the kind of human being you are, you everything that you do, every service that you provide is for other people. Whether that's teaching kids as young as 5, putting them on the trajectory to a martial art mindset, a respect, a discipline, a freedom mindset. Obviously, everybody in between who's doing that training, the flotation and the cryo. So you get to see the reactions of people. You get to see the change. You get to help kind of cultivate that. That must be so rewarding. And like you say, this year of you listening to people in cryo saying, oh, this was happening and now this isn't, that must be like a really, a lovely lift.
It is, yeah, it's nice. It's interesting as well to see, quite interesting, because we've got a few hundred students and some of them just there for martial arts. Some of them dip the toe in the cryo in the float or whatever, or the cryo. And I'm interested in float, but no, a cryo thing. And then there's others like, oh, I'll try the cryo and the float. And then there's a group of people that are interested in different areas and experiment with different areas, and their relationship is, like we had the Wim Hof coach Daniel Beckett over, and there was a few of our students signed up and did that ice bath challenge, breathing workshop with Wim Hof. And then since then, a few of them have got ice tubs and started joining outdoor swimming groups in, I think it's called Lost, the
like wild swimming and stuff.
Yeah, Lincolnshire Outdoor Swimming Tribe. Yeah. And there's a few of them started doing that. So people's relationships with cold and cold therapy and all, the stories when people come back and go, oh, I've got a tub in my garden now, I do this every morning. The kids do it with me. I'm like, oh, really? Yeah, that's cool.
Oh, that's
so it's really nice, all those things sort of interconnecting, but on different levels. Some people are just only interested in the martial arts. Some people are only some people are only come to me for the cryo. Some people don't even know the academies around the side.
Of course, yeah. So take us to the Wim Hof method then, because I was supposed to go to that. Then I think it got cancelled.
Yeah, first lockdown, wasn't it? Yeah. Can I more out to drink?
Yeah, of course you are. Yeah. By the way, we'll celebrate. This is some of your CBD products, which we'll get to, I'm sure. You brought these in. These are lovely. They're tasty. Dangerously tasty and lovely, and
apparently go well with whiskey and gin.
Oh right, oh that's something I need to look into.
What's the shop called?
23 CBD store. Yeah, we're on Dixon Street.
Yeah, and then we'll get to this further in the conversation as well. That these and cryo and floating together as a combination, and just all round. Again, this is another element of your business. I've seen them with my own eyes. So many of your clients or students coming in and just filling bags up and taking away stock of CBD products. That their anecdotal stories are amazing.
Yeah, they love it. This goes like, I was going to say hotcakes, but I don't know what I'm saying.
Goes like cold tins, doesn't it?
It's like cold tins of CBD drink. Yeah.
So with the Wim Hof method, then
that's what I was talking about. Yeah.
You arranged that day where one of the guys' disciples, pilgrims, trained Wim in offering the Wim Hof method. That came around because I guess obviously your whole intrigue of health and betterment and change and improvement, and obviously the cryo. So what was that like in comparison to the cryo? Is there correlations? Obviously cold is cold, but it's different, as we know. Cryo cold is very different to outdoor cold in, December. And what was the experience like?
It was mind-bending.
Was it?
Yeah, I wasn't looking forward to it. I love cryo. Love it. Go in there, -1. I actually did -170 for 7 minutes recently. Don't recommend it. But I'm in there and it's like, I walked around in a fog for 4 days. Like, nice fog. Didn't get anything done. It was terribly non-productive. Felt fantastic. But I wasn't looking forward to the ice bath. And I was just intrigued about the breathing, and the ice bath was like this thing at the end. I was like, oh, the ice bath was at the end. I might not do it. So I talked myself out of it for about 3 months. And then we did the workshop and met Dan and his partner, Heather, and assistant Matt came along. And it was instantly, got everyone sat on the mats and it was all laid out. He had his shamanic drum and the mats laid out and we all came in. He sat down and the first thing he said, it was really nice. He just looked up and we've got our mission statement for the academy up on the wall, and it starts with to awaken and harness and develop the instinct that lies in all of us, and a place for learning, self-development. And he just looked and he went, that. He said, I could have that written on my wall, that. And throughout the day, he just kept referencing that and referencing the cryo and the float and sort of, I know, I think the common terms, but they call it biohacking. Yeah. These days I think. But this place is set up, and so it was really, we made this connection straight away.
Good energy, just flowing.
Yeah, it was really nice. And then we talked about the breathing, and we did some practice breathing, kneeling up, and then laid down, put some eye patches on, and we did the breathing he went around banging his drum, and we did the breathing quite intensely until he said, I'll tell you when to stop doing the music, I'll stop banging my drum and I'll tell you when to come round. And I had to stop at one point. I just thought I was so off my head. I was coming up on, like, I'd done 5 grams of mushrooms.
Wow.
and a big dab of MDMA.
Ooh.
And I was having rushes through my body. And I was going, it started with a smile on my face. I was just laid there doing the breathing. A little smile came on my face and it got bigger and bigger and bigger. And I'm laid there going, I must look really stupid. Not bothered, not self-conscious, but it must look really stupid.
Yeah, the thought comes in. Yeah,
I was like, my face is smiling so much when he's walking past with his drum, I must look like an idiot. But I obviously wasn't bothered. And then every breath, it got bigger and bigger until the smile I was like, I can't smile anymore. And then I do another breath and it got bigger, the smile. And it got big, and it was like bigger than my body. And it was just this, I was a smile.
Wow.
And then I just burst into hysterics, and I was laughing so much. And I was like, right, stop. Because I had students there, and there was other people. I was like, if we carry on, I know what I'm like. I'm quite an extreme character, and if you did give me 5 grams of mushrooms, I don't know if we speak for a year or 2, I don't know. But, so I was like trying to control it, like, whoa, just bring it back down. He gave us some recovery breaths. I'm trying to get myself like normal again, because I was out of it. And then all of a sudden I was off doing the breath again. I was like, oh, I'm doing the breathing. And
So
it was like,
which style specific of breathing was it that you were doing at that point?
Oh man, I'll butcher it now because I haven't actually practiced it at all since.
Right.
And it was so I know it's the big little in-breath and the big out-breath all the way out, hold out, and then you hold it out on the last one. I think there was 15 cycles. Can't remember the cycles, Sam. I'll butcher it.
Right.
But there's a certain amount of in and out breaths. And let the breath go out.
Yeah.
Out, long breath, and out on the last breath, 15 or 30 cycles, just hold it out. Right. And then repeat as soon as you need to feel like you need to breathe again.
Yeah,
start again. And I was holding it for what seemed far too long. Out, no force. I don't know if have you done it?
Well, the reason I ask is because when I came across the Wim Hof as he sort of exploded onto, I think it was the Iceman documentary, Vice documentary.
That's right, yeah.
And then he sort of just exploded on all my favourite podcasts. He just started turning up with Aubrey Marcus and Joe Rogan and Chris, tangentially speaking, Chris Ryan, yeah. And he's just everywhere. So I was like, wow. And he's an intriguing guy as well, Wim himself.
Yeah,
he's got a really cool. He's got a very harrowing story. But what a lovely energy. But yeah, he was talking about it, and he was saying about how easy it is. And what I've been doing since then is the cold shower thing. And the breathing that I took from him that he was doing at that point was so big breath in and just drop your chest so you don't let everything out. Just but you're taking everything you can in, so you're filling up. I know you can go both ways, can't you? And he said that in the shower, particularly, like for a man of my kind of size, between 30 and 50 of these breaths, sort of,
That sounds right. Yeah.
and then hold
And just
at the
let
end.
it go.
And then just let it drop off. Just literally drop your chest, but then suck right up. And between 30 and 50 was when I would feel the tingles and the kind of the start to get that real kind of lightness, and then crank my shower on cold and kind of embrace the cold that way. And I've been doing that every day ever since, and I've loved it. And the breath thing, I mean, I stop there and I feel it there. I feel it at like 30, 40 breaths, like that kind of just euphoric spaciness.
There was a lot of people on that. A lot. There was a few. It was only 10. It was limited to 10. So there's a few people actually there that had been following his breathing for a year or so and doing the app or done his course. And the result at the end. So when we all came round and he sort of stopped the music and we all sat up, the room was bizarre. Everyone just sort of looked round and was like no one said anything. Half of them were crying. Then it was like, he said, go get yourself a cut. But tears rolling down people's faces and stuff. Not me, Sam. Not me.
You're too busy laughing.
Too busy laughing. And it was hilarious. It was bizarre. And he was like, oh, yeah, get a cup of tea and we'll have sort yourselves out and we'll talk again in a minute. And everyone got a cup of tea and we all just stood there and everyone was just looking at us going, did you? It was like, what happened?
Yeah.
Everyone was like, what happened? It was like, where do we go just then? It was bizarre. Because we was doing some incense and stuff, and there was a part of me going, what was in that incense? Like, that was too weird. It was too strong. It was like, that can't be
Again,
breath.
too simple.
Yeah, there's a part of me going, that was too extreme. Like, that can't be the breath. But everyone that had done the breathing before was like, never had anything like that. There was like, that was unusual.
What kind of length of time was this going on for then?
It wasn't that long. We did that cycle. I think I did about 6 cycles of that 30 to 50 reps.
Yeah.
I think I went to the 50. I think he said you can do between 30 and 50. And I think I went to the 50. And I think I did 5 cycles. And I stopped on the 4th and was like, no, hold on a minute. I'm losing the plot.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden my body just started doing it again. It was like, oh my God, I'm off.
Wow.
Yeah, it wanted to do it. It was like, well, I didn't trigger it. It was off on its own. But yeah, everyone was completely blown away.
Emotionally kind of just ripped open in a way, but without any, because I guess we're waking up levels of our self that are, I mean, I'm listening to James Nestor's book at the moment on Audible.
Breathe.
Breathe. My God.
Mental, isn't it?
Absolutely. And do you know what? It's for me, it's alongside Matthew Walker's Why We Sleep.
It's
impacting me on that level of like, my God, again, so simple, hidden in plain sight, Well,
the nose breathing stuff, we spoke to a coach down south, Milton Keynes, Tony Davis, who spoke a few years ago. One of our fighters, Dom, was having we knew he was super fit, ridiculously fit. But he was gassing out in fights and he was losing a lot of his fights because he just didn't have the energy going into round 3s and 4s and one of the reasons he was losing the fights. And we spoke to a coach, Tony, and he was like, he gave us some breathing exercises and it was all nose breathing. Everything was nose breathing. And his explanation, he said, and it ties in with a bit with the James Nestor, and there's so many different angles. And he said, basically, if you're breathing through your mouth heavy, you're triggering a sort of a panic response. So if you have a panic attack, your body's like,
yeah.
He said, if you're breathing through your mouth, it's like a panic attack in reverse. You're triggering a simulation of a panic attack. So it'll release cortisol into your body, a stress response, your muscles will stiffen up and it'll make you slower. And I was like, okay, that makes sense to me. That's fine. So he gave us some training protocols, jogging with water in your mouth so you have to breathe through your nose and working it up. Give us a set of protocols to work with over a few months. Completely transformed Dom's cardio. Completely helped with his. I think he said it helped with his asthmatic. I have to check with him on that. I think he said.
There's research on that. Yeah.
And so I started trying it in the kettlebell class because what I do in my kettlebell class every Saturday morning is we do 5 3-minute rounds and then you run round in between the rounds, so we don't stop. And during the running round, I'm usually plodding. Dying after because I push
trying to get your breath.
Yeah, because I push every round to the limit. And I'm plodding around heavy-footed. And I started doing the nose breathing. Took me, I get maybe half a round in the first week and like, whoa, God, I can't breathe, can't manage it through my nose. Slowly got to the point where I could do the full session through my nose. And I wanted to run around. I wanted to run around faster. I felt light, felt different, felt light in the head, felt more focused and clear and not, not as like, it was real interesting.
Well, all these, as I'll come back to the Wim Hof method that you're doing at the gym, because all these things are hidden. They're what we do, and we're so far removed from them, or we've come up with new process based on the processes or the structures that we live within now, that it just seems fucking ridiculous. What do you mean I can change my spinal shape if I breathe through my nose? Yeah. But anyway, back to
just
you.
moving.
So you weren't looking forward to getting in the tub water, the ice water, but when you've done that breathing and you're sort of having that little bit of a like, are you good? What happened there? Like, what's next? Where does he take you there? At what point are you readying to get in that freezing water?
So that was the weird bit. As soon as we got outside, it was 7 o'clock on when was it? Well, recently anyway. It wasn't too long ago. So it was a winter night, dark,
cold.
cold.
This CBD sweet you kindly brought in. Thank you, Matt.
And the tubs are lined up, and it was like, who wants to go in? Yeah. I didn't even let him finish his sentence. I just wanted to get in. I was just like, yeah, I'm in. And I got in, and looking at the photos, I wasn't as deep as I thought I was. I thought I was up to my neck, but I was sort of here. So there's a bit of resistance. But I got an instant headache up the back here, real sharp pain. And I just said, because I was trying to meditate through it, and I just said, I'm getting a really bad pain in my head. I don't want to get a migraine. Anyway, it's just your vessels contracting because of the cold. And I thought, I'm getting out. So I bailed out. I did 2 minutes, and I bailed out, and everyone did a go. And by the time they'd all done a go, I stood in the car park, middle of winter, with my gown on, and I was like, can I go again? And he was like, yeah, go on. So I jumped in again, and it was a completely different experience. So I made sure I went down on the second one, and it just burned. It felt like my skin was on fire. And then there was like a mind-body separation, because there was a different relationship with my mind and my body. I don't know I can't really explain it, but it was a very different experience of my body and what was going on, the sensations. It was like I was separate, experiencing it from a separate place. And I was just really enjoying the uncomfortable sensations, because I knew I'd be set. It wasn't like, my skin's on fire, I need to get out of here, put me out with a towel. It was like, I knew I wasn't on fire, but it felt like I was on fire. So I was like, that's really interesting. What's that? And I did 3 minutes, and then the interesting bit was the next day for me. Was everyone did that. He taught people through it. Some people were having more trouble than others. Yeah, some people were again, trauma, holding trauma in certain places. It was, there was all sorts of things being expressed by different people. But for me personally, I went home and I just went to bed. Next day, I got up and I felt really odd. I was really agitated, really frustrated, really short temper. I had no patience whatsoever. And this went on all day. I had a lot of stuff to do, and I was getting really mad with everything. To the point I was like not throwing things.
Wow.
Leave me alone. And I just didn't want to speak to anyone. And I had a lot of pressure here. It was like a massive tension. I found myself all day. I was like, oh God, leave me alone. Like, what is this? And the next morning, the same. Like really tense, really anxious. And there was a group of the people that went on the course. Kieran was on it, and Danny, I think. Yep. And so I just put on there, I said, anyone else feel like they want to kill someone? I said, I feel so frustrated and so impatient and like really off kilter. And everyone got back and went, I'm so glad you said something. Like, yeah, me too. It was like, Kieran made me laugh. He said, there was no coffee this morning. I got really angry over no coffee. I was like, stamp my feet.
Kieran, go deep. We're going to be talking to Kieran as well soon, so we'll touch on that. Yeah.
Made me laugh. And everyone was like, yes. I rang Dan and just said, look, is this normal? And he went, yeah. Just walk it off and tap and do some EFT. Yeah, I'm not too clued up on them sort of thing. And he said, walk barefoot outside, tap, and get the energy out. So I just went in and floated. I did 50 milligrams of CBD, jumped in the float. That was Tuesday night. And I went home and I sat on the settee and I poured a whiskey and I didn't drink it. I just sat there for 4 hours with a whiskey, and every breath I was just getting the rushes up my body, and I was like, oh, okay. And Paula telly was on, and I wasn't really watching it. It was just there. I was just sort of sat there, and Paula kept going, "You all right?" And it's like, "Yep." Just like just focusing on this feeling. This is weird. And then I felt fantastic. It was like a weight had been released from my chest.
So what was what
freed open?
What was he saying then in terms of it being energy and it's kind of a standard thing that you might feel?
Well, he didn't say too much, but you know what life's like. It's weird, or it seems to be with coincidence. That week, I had some people turn up for cryo. You might even know some of them. I can't remember the lady's name, but she was saying, "Oh, I wanted to do the Wim Hof weekend with you, the training." And I went, "Oh yeah." So same story told her. And she went, "Oh, I'm a shaman and this and that, and sounds like you had some healing and that was, you're holding something." And then someone else came in and was like, "Oh yeah, well and I was like, "Oh okay." So
right.
That week, I sort of had these people drop in. One of them turned up and I told him about breathing, and he was like, "Oh yeah, I go to Tibet and I do the breathing. That's the two did he call it? Rob, his name is. Anyway, I can't remember but he's like, yeah, I think Wim Hof was influenced by these people and I do that style of breathing, and Tibet comes from the Tibetan tradition of, and so I was like, all that week was like, oh right, really? Just like all this thing sprung up. It was really interesting.
Yeah.
So
so what was the cold water like then, comparatively to the cryo? Because you're quite well versed. I mean, there's a certain amount of confidence. I mean, I jump in the cold water whenever I can when I'm out camping. We've got a lake out the back there. We jumped in there on Boxing Day. It's probably as cold as I've been in. I think it's about 7-8 degrees. But my friend who I did it with, he said to me, "Oh, you've been doing that cryo. It's you're going to be all right." And I'm like, "Well, it's a bit different.
It's different.
It's very different. The cryo's quite difficult to explain. The cryo cold, but the water that you mentioned, that being on fire, like your skin's being ripped off of your flesh.
Interesting, isn't it?
Yeah, the muscle of your your fascia.
Sounds lovely.
Yeah.
Can we sell it?
So
the marketing.
Is it literally not 0 degrees temperature of the water?
No, so that would have been probably from what I meant, because since then I've bought a whiskey barrel, 600 litre whiskey barrel.
Yeah, I want to get to that. I've seen
tangled up here. I'm having a fight with the microphone.
I've seen your pictures. Yeah.
So I started dipping every morning. I've actually switched that to the evening at the minute because I'm having strange effects similar to that, like a massive build-up. But to answer your question, yesterday was 1 degree. I went in, broke the ice. It was 1/2 inch thick on the top yesterday.
1 degree?
Yeah. Now that is very, very different than 5. It was 5 degrees last week and 1 degree. So in the cryo, 4 or 5 degrees doesn't really you don't really know. You know 120, 150 a lot, and 170, and it starts getting quite intense. But like 2 degrees, 3 degrees in the cryo doesn't really, I don't notice the difference. I don't know anyone that has. 1 or 2 degrees in the water is a big, big difference. And like I said, I've changed because I've been doing it every morning, and I get exactly the same, but not unpleasurable now. So I get the build up. Excuse me. I get the build up of energy straight afterwards, and
afterwards.
With the second I get out, I've got a vibration here, and it goes down into my arms and into my hands, and that started the first week because I started just before Christmas with that, and now it's sort of going all over my body, but it's nice. It's not uncomfortable. It's quite a nice feeling. But what was happening was when I was doing it in the morning, it was leaving me. I was doing 3 minutes every morning at 7:30, 8 o'clock, watching the sun come up. Probably going for it.
I like it, mate. I like it. This is where we need to be in 2021.
And I was loving it. I was like, as I go in, the sun's coming up. It's like, this is my spiritual journey.
But all joking aside, we're talking about you've got a big bucket full of water that you get in and just watch the sun come up. We can all do that.
Yeah, it is amazing. Yeah, it doesn't cost anything.
Fucking so powerful.
Yeah, no, it is amazing. Because there's a zen moment. There's a very, very, very calming moment. Because your breath at first is, and it's all about controlling that. And
do you breathe before you go in? Or have you just been getting in?
Just get in. Get in. I stand up. It's up to here when I stand up in it. And then I go one big breath. And on the out breath, I go straight down to my chin on the out breath. That took a few days to get to do that. The first few times was like,
yeah, gasping.
Yeah, like couldn't breathe. Just couldn't breathe. It was out of my control. It felt, and so I've got that response. I can breathe into it. But as the second I'm in and I'm shoulder deep, I settle and I meditate, and then everything calms. Everything. There's just a moment where it just goes, vroom. And then it's really where I live is I'm quite isolated, and there's no traffic sound, there's nothing, and you're just there, and then the sun is coming up. I have done it at times. The sun comes up, and a big flock of birds flew over, and the sound from the birds was not like if you normally look up and they go over and they go. It was like it was like there was a connection between the sound. It's like, I don't know what I'm on about. And it was just like this moment where I'm sat there and it's just like, and it was like you're involved with nature.
Yeah.
That's all. I don't know how to explain it, but it was absolutely incredible. I just sat there, I was like, wow, I'm in Saxby. Not in a samurai garden or anything.
Yeah. But in here, you're tuning into something that's so simple, so built into our DNA, built into our experience as humans, built in, and we're so far from it because of our wonderful innovation and technological evolution. Yeah, comfort. Yeah.
Half a degree.
Yeah.
Ooh, half a degree.
And when you do look at, like, what does that mean? Like the ripple effect of making a room comfortable, artificial light, and so on. Like, it's fascinating how we then sort of take that in and re-establish our perspective, and so I think it feels like, and maybe because I'm doing this podcast and we're sort of drawn to these kinds of people like you who are trying to reconnect to ourselves, I'm finding it more and more everywhere I look, like people, we are simplifying the people that I'm coming across, trying to reconnect to things. And it is, I keep saying it's so simple, hidden in plain sight. For me, camping this year has been massive, and getting in the water wherever I can find it. So one degree in that barrel, I went in, I think earlier this year, the coldest I'd been in was like 10.4 degrees in Yorkshire. And I'd been in at like 12, 13 before that. And that from there was enormous. I got in that 10 degree thing and it was like, whoa, skin ripping off. And what I found strange is as soon as I walked out, literally as each step I'm coming out and less water contact with flesh, I get out and I'm like, oh, I could go back in. I'm going back in. And I went back in and it was like, whoa, like just, no, nothing's changed. It is savage.
Yeah. There is a pull, isn't there? There is a pull. I miss it if I don't do it at the minute.
Oh, God, yeah. Yeah, it is, yeah. My wife and I have been talking since Boxing Day. We need to go and do it at the lake again. But it is... there's a point as well. Like when we went on Boxing Day, my wife got in. She just went in and just swam. She just got in and swam. She was in there for about 4 minutes, moving her body. There's like a biting point that you can get past, isn't there? Or I found anyway. That you can sort of get past that first 40 seconds or 50 seconds, whatever it might be, where it really is like, whoa, my skin's being ripped from me. Yeah. Once you get past there, you can kind of manage, I can manage for maybe another minute, maybe another 2 minutes, and then it's like, whew. But when you get out instantaneously, for me, like the aura of just like, all of those endorphins just... I'm yet to experience I've had it from the cryo.
Have you?
I've had that from the cryo where I've got home and I'm thinking, oh, everything's great because I'd planned my day. I've done all my admin. I've done all the shit I need to do. I've been with the kids. I went on the cryo. I've got a free afternoon. We're going to watch a movie. Time is mine. And I've got back and I've been like kind of like agitated and kind of not quite where I need to be. And I can't say I physically felt anything, but I've definitely felt that kind of just certain uneasiness which didn't add up because I've done everything right. Everything's
just stirs stuff up sometimes. Yeah, I've noticed that. Yeah, it's like a meditation session. Sometimes you'll sit down and it's the perfect meditation session if there is one, and other times you sit down and it's like the mind's off and it's cluttered. But that is the perfect meditation setting and all that as well. But we don't see it like that generally, do we? We're like, oh, everything's off and I'm doing a meditation, and cryo's the same for me, and the getting in the water barrel's the same for me, and it's all that, you're different every day. The cryo, the water's, everything's different. The temperature's different. The environment's different. Although it's in the same place, there's different temperatures, different atmosphere. Everything's slightly different. We're not the same thing from day to day. So when we get in, we are a different person. And how we react is a reflection of that, I think.
How long have you had the barrel?
Got it just before Christmas.
So... when you'd done the Wim Hof thing and you'd had that experience and you've been through the energy thing and then you kind of work out what that is, you speak to the guys that come in and say, oh yeah, you've had an energy or you've had a release or whatever. Is getting back in the cold water like on your mind? Is it an experience that you put down to, okay, I'm going to stick with cryo? Or when do you start thinking, actually, I want to do that again?
No, I was fascinated.
Right.
I don't understand why I haven't done the breath since. I don't know. I'm quite a... obsessive person with things, and the cryo, the float, the martial arts. I'm quite obsessive when I get into something, and as extreme as the breathing was, I'm quite surprised that I haven't just gone.
You probably just got like a warning sign of thinking, me breathing, going hysterical, too much.
It's probably what it is. Scared.
Yeah, you've
Scared
got a built-in system to protect yourself from your own madness.
Yeah, don't do that. Don't do that. Really, don't do that. Yes, I don't know why I haven't done that. I've not been motivated to do it.
Do you know, I've let it go in the shower. For a long time I was pulling off the breathing first, so and I'm not any hero in a cold shower. I'm having a normal shower, like I always have done. Shower, nice hot shower. And then when I would normally get out, that's when I know I'm going to do the cold. So I'll crank it up hot for just a little bit, and then I would do my breathing. I'll just do those 30 breaths. And it literally takes 30, 40 seconds, a minute, if that. And I'd get the tingle and then crank it onto cold. And then how I sort of make it, try and be consistent, is I sort of go around incrementally. So I'll just hit this part of my body, then I'll just step in slightly, 5 seconds there, all the way around, sort of like a maybe 8-sided, and I'll go around twice and hold my breath and come back to the middle each time. Then as I got probably a bit more cocky with the cold water, then I stopped doing the breathing, and I haven't done the breathing, or maybe done the breathing maybe 2 or 3 times when I've known that I've been quite stressed. But as a kind of a natural thing as part of that process, I just didn't do it.
Really. I don't understand, because that's literally, I can't think of a good analogy. But yeah, it's like you've gone to this, you've gone and experienced this thing, someone's shown you how to do it, it's absolutely amazing, it's blown your brain, it's gone, that's absolutely amazing. I felt like the top of I was just laughing hysterically, looked like a madman. And then I've gone home and that thing's freely available.
Yeah.
And I've not done it. So,
it's strange, isn't it? But listening to James Nestor's book at the minute is really kind of bringing me back round to breathing again, and just making sure I give myself, because any habit you've got to create it, haven't you? It takes time to just imprint it and keep moving with it. So as you're going through barrel life, you've moved it to the evening then, and that's because, are you dealing better with just going to sleep on that energy, or? Sleeping's fantastic at the minute. And a big improvement since it took me about 5 days to wean the alcohol out of my system over Christmas, because I wear the Aura ring, so I measure my sleep with that. It's back to where it was, or where it should be. That's interesting though. So the alcohol, you've measured that disruption.
Yeah. My heart rate, resting heart rate goes up about 10% during the night. My body temperature's slightly increased, and my sleep is massively disrupted.
Wow. So how much are you drinking for that to be the case?
Not a lot. I don't drink a lot these days. So I'm a heavy night. These size. So I drink.
Like the craft beers?
Yeah, I like them.
Same as
me.
So
I'll drink. If I get through 4 of them, I'm bouncing off a wall. I'm like, ooh, my balance has gone. I'm like tipsy these days, which is weird, knowing who I used to be. So, it's strange. So 4 of those. And I drank most nights over Christmas, but not even that much most nights, like a couple. Most nights, and I bought some nice whiskey, so I had a few shots of whiskey. So I wouldn't say I was drunk at any. I wasn't like drunk at any point. Just had a few beers, and I was in bed for 10 every night. I've not stayed up late at all. 10:30. Sound like right rock and roll, don't I?
Yeah.
Check me
you
out.
Look the part for it.
Check it out. Yeah. Punk. That's what punks do. Bed by 10. That's what we do.
You're a 2021 punk.
Have I swapped that crochet pattern with you yet?
Pardon?
Have I swapped that crochet pattern with you yet?
No.
I'll bring it in next time.
Yeah, we need to do that. Yeah.
So, what was we saying before I crocheted it up?
About alcohol interrupting your sleep.
So monitoring that took about 5 days to get back to where I was when I was at my healthiest on the Aura, which is my resting heart rate's about 40. And I measure my heart rate variability. So everything to sync back, and body temperature, heart rate variability, resting heart rate, to get back to where it was. Alcohol improved my deep sleep, but I think if I remember rightly from Matthew Walker's book, it's a bit of a trick. So my deep sleep would like go up to 3 hours some nights, but I'm sort of like comatose.
And it's measuring that on the ring. Which one is it?
Aura, Oura.
Can you bring that up?
Matthew Walker, I think Matthew Walker said it's the best one of the lot, although the technology's not quite there yet. There's still some flaws and things they need to figure out. It's
fascinating to know that can do that. You can get that much data from your sleep. Okay, here we go, look.
Oh, look at that now in gold, hey?
Look at that. So is there an application attached to that then, and then it just sends the data and you...
Yeah, so it actually collects it in this, so it doesn't matter where your phone is, it collects the data in the ring, and then when you connect to your phone the next morning and check, it gives you, updates it all. I've kept a record. 'Cause I bought it last year, January. I bought it myself for Christmas last January, so I've had it just a year. Yeah. So I've collected data for.
And
a year.
have you managed to create behaviours then and adapt your life to suit your sleep?
Oh God, yeah, massively. I've experimented. So the cryo was big improvements. Every time I used the cryo, REM sleep doubled every time without fail. Nice deep sleep improvement. The float, similar. Then, obviously, I had to open the CBD shop. So the problem is...
It's a wonder you're fucking awake these days, man.
Well, hey, I've been 10 days clean CBD. This year I'm back on it. I've not touched CBD in there. I thought I'd have a clean out. I don't know why.
Yeah,
there's no
it's always good. It's always good. Moderation.
Everything. Yeah, I'll stop doing that for 3 weeks. Why are you enjoying it? I don't know.
Yeah. No, I think that's really healthy. I think that's the law of averages for me.
Just clean it out every now and again. Yeah.
But you've actually been able to doctor and sort of see then from the information from your ring, as well as you're constantly learning, listening, and taking in information. But you've actually been able to kind of say, hang on a minute, this is doing this in this way, and that's affecting me positively, negatively.
Yeah,
that's amazing.
Yeah. Float and cryo, different ways round, much better. So if I do float then cryo, much better experience. And found around about 75 milligrams of CBD in one hit before a float or before bed is the optimal. The water barrel I've just changed that in the last 3 days, three or so days, because I think, to answer your question, I was getting in the mornings, felt fantastic, got out, feeling really invigorated. But I had that with the vibration and the sensations I was going through, and then the mood, the calming of my mood was I get my laptop out and normally do all my marketing in the morning, work some stuff, answer emails, and I'd sit there and I'd look at it and I'd just have nothing. There'd just be nothing. And I thought, well, I'm not getting stressed about it because I've not experienced this in my life. Like, that's not something I've ever experienced. So I sat there going, I don't know what else on the set either. Something, I'll go for a walk, or I'd have to find something to do that was quite like hammer nails in wood. So hold the cladding on and put some
physical.
So it's just so I'll just get my body going, get my brain ticking over, and do something, because I've just sit there and I'm like, so I was not very productive. I wasn't that bothered. It's a lockdown. There's not, sort of all shut down anyway. So, but there's a part of me that's uneasy with that laying around all day.
Yeah, I was going to say that psychologically. Fucking hell, it's making me. I'm losing me touch. I'm losing me.
I'm not mental anymore. I'm not annoying everyone. Me and Paul are getting on much better. I got to sort this out.
Just jump on my Instagram, the Tudor Chat Instagram, and go to Function First, Aidan, and you'll find a picture of. I think if you go on, Function First. Find Function First, and there's a picture of you in the barrel. Is it an old whiskey barrel, do you say?
It is, yeah, 600. It stinks of whiskey still. It's nice. It was a bit weird at 7:30 in the morning getting in with that smell of whiskey. It was really weird when I drilled the hole in it and it burst out. So, a whiskey explosion. Woo!
Wow.
It was like letting a genie out of them.
What are you smelling like when you get out of it?
Lovely song.
Yeah, just blissful.
No, it's well, I go straight in, shower all, because the water, I have the water pumped from my well, and I haven't had it tested yet. So the water's pumped straight from an old Roman well into the barrel, and I leave it 3 or 4 days and then change it. So it's below bedrock, so it's freezing cold when I pump it in there anyway.
Oh God!
I'm hoping I don't know yet. I'm hoping in the middle of summer that's the same, because it's so deep, the water.
Right, yeah. So hopefully the core temperature doesn't affect it too much. Yeah, that's great. So I'm going to look into one of these rings then, because I'm really interested. I've heard a lot about them, but it seems like the technology and what you're learning from it is really, really important.
It is. It helps. It does help. Because I notice when things are off, and then I go, oh, that I did yesterday, or I ate late, or that's disrupted my sleep by so much, and I can tell. Cause some days you'll go like 3 days on the trot of drinking a few beers in the evening. By that, I'm having an afternoon nap, and I don't generally do that. So I'm like, I feel like I'm groggy, done. I need to lie down. So I like to continue through the day. So
where were we?
Is it Function First Lincoln, or just Function First?
Function First Lincoln, I think. There it is, look. And there you are. God, it's a big old barrel, isn't it?
It is, yeah. Yeah, me and Paul have got in it together.
Jesus Christ, look at it. Yeah. Yeah, is Paula doing it as well then?
Look at that pose there. Come
Yeah.
here, eh?
That's like Kay's catalogue barrel. Isn't it? Yeah. Amazing. And are you at the point where, see what, you're a month in or so, what's the mental kind of build up for it? Are you like, fucking, I've got to do it, I'm going to do it? Or are you kind of...
No, I look forward to it.
Right.
I really do. Paula's a bit hit and miss. She's getting headaches a lot when she's doing it. She's not sure, she's got a head cold at the minute, so she's unsure. She'll get in and she's taking her time lowering down, and she goes, no, headache's coming on, and she jumps straight out. So she's been doing it for as long as me, and she gets headaches a lot doing it. So I've not heard of that from her. Different, not like when my vessels contracted.
Yeah.
She's getting like full blown headaches. So she might be run down at the minute. She might have a head cold. We think maybe that might be the reason.
That's interesting because I've read with cryo, it's good for migraines. Can be really good. Can't it?
Yeah. No, with that we do get good results for people with migraines. Not Paula though.
Right.
Not Paula.
That's interesting.
Brings hers on. If she starts getting a migraine, she gets in the cryo, makes it loads worse. But most people, again, it's that thing, isn't it? We're all different. So.
Well, when I last used cryo, which was an interesting one for me, I had turned my ankle over, didn't I?
That's right. Yeah.
Recently, in the lead
Is that
up.
the last time I see you?
It might have been, yeah. Yeah, I turned my ankle, and I'd never done that before. I've been pretty lucky with injuries. I've had a couple of injuries, but not considering what I've done: football, boxing, kickboxing, so on, jiu-jitsu. Been really lucky. I was out running early in the morning in the dark, and like just twisted my ankle on like the camber of the road, and I couldn't walk. I was like, I got my friend with me. I was like, I can't get up. I'm like, just bizarre feeling of like, this has never happened to me. And I managed to get home on the adrenaline, and then it felt really, really bad. And I spoke to a couple of people, and one of my friends said, look, I'd probably get it checked out because I thought I'd twisted my ankle, and everyone says leave it for a couple of days. But it turns out I'd done something to one of the metatarsals in the top of my foot and blah, 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 blah. And I was thinking, fucking hell, I've been a bit lazy in the past with certain things that have happened to me, like when I did actually have an injury on my knee, I had to have some screws in it. I didn't do the physio, and I can feel that now, it's a bit stiffer in the winter. So I thought, do I go up there? I need to go up to the hospital. I don't want to go to the hospital, but I'm going to have to go to the hospital. Just get it checked. Just get the x-ray, whatever. And then Alex said, well, why don't you, my wife said, well, why don't you go and float and do your cryo? Of course. So I came to see you, and you said about which order to do them in as well. Like do the float first, and because for people who do experience it, who will go on to experience it after listening to this conversation, no doubt. Cryo is a fucking whoa, isn't it? Whereas floating, you come out the float. So, but so much so for me that I had a little moment, didn't I, in the cryo where I've explained it on the podcast to listeners. I felt like I was just in nirvana, just bliss. You said to me, you're all right. So I do the float. My ankle's bad. I can't really put weight on it. I can hobble about. I've done the float. That was fantastic. Bit of CBD. Came out. We chatted for a while. Then went on the cryo. And as I'm in the cryo, I'm aware that I can't really put weight on my foot. But we're dropping temperature. You're chatting to me, And then the last thing I remember is, you're all right. I'm like, yeah, I'm all right. And then in a split second, it's like, whoa, you. And I was like, whoa, I'm back in the room. And I had like a blissful climaxing, like, fade out, and it was.
You were so relaxed, you forgot to stand up.
But I mean, I don't know if anyone's been choked out before, but it was not dissimilar to
that's a nice feeling, isn't it?
The coming round of being choked out. Yeah,
people think that sounds awful, but it's actually really nice.
I've been choked out, Andy, in a triangle. It was in a bloody demonstration as well, and it just so quickly. But I'll never forget coming round. At the time, it felt like it was happening for days, the coming round. I could see it, I could hear music. There was music on, and then all of a sudden you start to hear the sort of fractured voices. Oh, Sam, you're all right. People shaking your legs, and and then in that last couple of moments as you come through, you're like, oh wow, that's. But in the cryo, that for me, that was like so much quicker. The whole thing was so much quicker, but so blissful and peaceful. That was one thing. When I got off. My mobility, literally, as I got out, was so much better. And then the next couple of days, the lift in my ability to be mobile and the pain and the kind of the psychological awareness of like, I'd sit down on a chair, and if I rolled my ankle over, or when your foot goes just slightly on the side, I'd be panicking. I just felt amazing. Felt amazing, and from there on, I've just been. I don't know, because people have told me, oh, sometimes it can be really bad for a couple of days with your ankle, and then you're fine. But I felt, and again, with all of these kinds of therapies, with all these kinds of behaviours that you choose to implement, the very idea that you've sought out something for yourself, I think, goes a long way to it. You know, the psychology of actually, no, I was going to go up the hospital, wasn't I? If you remember.
That's right.
And then we did that and sat and chatted for another hour after, and I was like, yeah, I'm fine, I'll go home.
Can I borrow your pogo stick and my phone on it?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, it's been a strange year, obviously, as we mentioned before. Stop-start with businesses. We're aware now more than ever about, you know, potentially looking after our health in the future. Where do you think we're going to be with the way? I mean, it's probably an impossible question, but with businesses like cryotherapy, because where does that fall in the bracket of being a medicinal endeavour and being a recreational one? And has that changed during this time?
Well, because so it's in a weird area. It's not regulated, so it doesn't fall into any area at the minute. As in, you know, it's not a medical facility. It's not well-being spa. So it's not categorised as far as I know to this point of speaking. But I think I get the feeling that it's going to take off massively. The interest and feedback that I'm getting, it just can't not. And the feedback, so there's quite a few people contacting me. There's not many still, but there's probably double now, and there's people buying them now. The guy I bought mine off sold 9 in January this month. He's got 9 on order. That's a lot. It's sold 9 in the last 5 years, I think. So there's 9 ordered in January, so that gives you an idea of
Wow.
I think that's right, something like that anyway. And there's one in Norfolk. She rang me recently to ask me some questions because she knows I've been running it a long time. I had a guy with an MMA gym in Birmingham ring me recently who just bought one. I know you've got one. What are you experiencing with this and that? And it's definitely something that's becoming more popular, definitely. And I think it's something you'll see almost like sunbeds were in the 70s, 80s. You know what, 80s? Yeah, probably later.
That would be nice. That would be so nice if that was the case. Because the benefits that people leave with are just enormous, and they're untold, really, for what it means for a society and for a community. You know, to embrace that kind of environment. And like I say, because of the mindset that takes you in, whether it is your bad back or your creaky elbow or just, you know, like me, I just want to have that experience and know that there's longevity involved with this and things like that. You're on to something. You're on to a way of thinking. You're on to a way of living your life that's only beneficial to you and everybody around you, aren't you?
Yeah, you are. And like
I hope you're right with that.
Well, yeah, that thing with people's relationship changing with cold and people getting more into as they're visiting, because obviously I'm talking to them. It's only 3 minutes, but they have a 15-minute slot, so we can talk. Ask, you know, I listen a lot. I also talk a lot, as you know, but we're having conversations like we're having now, and so people go, oh, right, really? And I'll check this sauna study out, and I'll link it to you later. Or I'll check this out and have a look at Wim Hof, and who's Wim Hof? And I'm like, so I'm explaining things to her because I'm getting nurses coming in. Some of them nurses, so many with bad backs from the work they do, bent over, lifting all day bodies, you know, live, you know. But they've got wrecked back, so they're going to get a lot of nurses coming with just amazing results. I've got people in serious car accidents that were like suicidal. One lad comes, he's a real nice guy. It was over for him. He didn't see any point in living anymore. Now, he dealt with a lot of that before he came to see me, so it wasn't the cryo that did that, so I'm not claiming that. But he tried various therapies, this, and was getting himself motivated and back on his feet. But cryo, he said, is the only one. It's just no painkillers, nothing. It was, you know, it was a serious back injury. He was like out of action for a long time. And in his head, he was like, my life's over. I'm out of here. I'm checking out. And so, you know, people like that, and like the myofascial pain syndrome lady, and an interesting bit of feedback I got recently that I personally, it's a bit geeky, it's me really, I guess, that found it fascinating, was a guy comes, he's a superbike racer, and he's got pins in his legs, and he says from the accidents he's had the same accident several times, or fell on the same side. So the pin snaps and pops out of his femur, and it's the same problem over and over, and he has physio and he has massage, and his masseur can't get to the certain problems because he's just so tense and he's so messed up. And he went after his cryo session a while ago, straight to his masseur, and she was like, or he actually was like, "What the hell have you been doing?" He said, "I can feel everything." And he was like, "Right," and he didn't say anything. He came back. He said, "That was weird." He said, he's not been able to do anything for like 10 years. Can't touch the areas he needs to get to. He just can't get there. He said he got there straight away with no pressure, no effort. Like, so he was working on all these areas. Did it again the week after, same response. So he told his physio, he's booked in. But for me, the interesting bit was it's a third party. That's, it's not you with the placebo or maybe it has and maybe it hasn't. It's like this third guy's just gone, "What the hell have you been doing?" A physical response from a third person. I have no idea. You're
peer review almost.
Yeah, that's been touching your body for 10 years intimately.
And feels it,
and knows every single bit. Suddenly went, "Whoa, what's this? It's a different body." So I thought, for me personally, that was a really interesting piece of feedback.
No, I hope you're right. I mean, like I say, I'm evangelical. I need to read more, and I do need to try and do more service to the science and be a little bit more. I mean, I just seem to just ramble on about my experience and like my daft kind of positive, experiences, and knowing that, like we just said there, you do take this into your life. It's not just that, cryo is an amazing thing. It's the idea that you embrace things that are simple, cold, getting outside, decent food, just all these things make perfect sense. And if we can get cryo like on every corner like a sunbed, the difference in the mindset is fucking unspeakable.
We just need some more Kardashians promoting it, don't we? I get a lot of ladies come and do that because there's some like footballers, something's wives, and they're like, "Oh, I saw this on so and so wives," and they use it. And
so it's happening.
Yeah. So some people do come in because of programs like that.
Well, for the skin and everything, it's amazing, isn't it? And aging and metabolism, and I mean, it is endless. I mean, people should go and Google it and look it up, and it is unbelievable. And give it a whirl. But
you're right. That like you say just then, it's really not about the 3 minutes in the cryo or the hour in the flow or the 3 minutes in the water or the hour on the mats. It's how that affects and integrates into your daily life. How does that how does that have a positive impact over time in your daily life, and how do you integrate it? And
especially when they're collated, when you're participating in, I read I forget who it was. It was on Brain Pickings, a page that I really do have time for. One of the only pages on the internet, social medias. Brain Pickings. It's fantastic, and they're just little memes and little kind of little bits of writing from all sorts of philosophers and thinkers, and they're always quite poignant. And one of them was that we are 95% of who we are is the collation of our habits. Everything we see, we do, we think.
Them habits have made us. This is
like grains of sand that create a beach. And I love that, because if you think about it, it's not just we think of habits as a smoking habit or a whatever habit. It's like no, literally the ticks and the bits of you in every area, and thinking along the lines of like, I'm going to give that a whirl, whatever it is, just something that you've written yourself off from through life because that's not me or whatever. I think that's really a useful thing. And then you learn so much. You realise, this door's open to all sorts of things, isn't it? And as we kind of go hurtling towards a future where our health and our immune systems and our kind of vulnerabilities are really at the fore of our minds, and we are learning about different ways of dealing with it, this could be perfect for a bit of autonomy over ourselves.
Well, that's the bit Wim Hof makes me laugh. Have you heard it when he says it? And I'm going to butcher it, but it's something like, he goes, autoimmune system? No, we operate not automatic, we operate the immune system. He activates it and fights off disease, and they inject him with the virus, don't they?
That's
viruses, types of virus, and he fights them off, and he activates his immune system. He's like, automatic? I'm in control.
It's amazing. It's amazing. You've also, Matt, there's Brain Pickings, look. Yeah, that's a great page, that is. So I think it's a lady from New York who's, I forget her name now, typical podcast song. But yeah, a cracking page. There's always some lovely insights and led me to some good books and, ways of thinking. You've got sauna set up at home. Amazing. Now, I know Dr. Rhonda Patrick raves about this. How's that going? When did that go in? And what is that in conjunction with? Are you kind of doing hot, cold, and?
Yeah, I start feeling uncomfortable when I'm getting used to it. I feel a bit odd. You got to remember, I've got some hang-ups. I need to deal with them. I need to not care as much about them things. I get freaked out by, I'll go in some mornings and I'll jump in the sauna, and then I'll jump in the plunge pool, and then I'll go in and train 45 minutes with Dom, and then I'll jump in the float, and then I'll jump in the float, have a can of CBD, and then I'll have a cryo while I'm here, and then I'll drive home, and I just sat on the set, see the stupid big grin on my face, and I'm like, it feels a bit decadent. I don't know if I should be doing this, but then I'm like, why shouldn't I? And I have them internal turmoils. So anyway.
Yeah. No, that we joke, but that is a kind of a thought process that does run through, isn't it? It's like, do
I deserve this? Why me? It's like Elon Musk probably didn't have a day like that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like I just feel sometimes guilty or something. I don't know, whatever. Not worthy. But anyway, I've got it. So what was the question?
Yeah, the having the sauna at home and how you're using it, and, reading up on, what the benefits are, because I know cold hot is obviously there's all sorts of different benefits to that as well.
So, I mean, when I heard Dr. Rhonda Patrick say, it was one sentence in which she's like, there's far too much information in there. So, and one sentence just said, she said, all causes of death, heart disease, respiratory system, diabetes, cancer, dementia, Alzheimer's, just listed a load off. All causes of death from these ailments reduced by 55% if you use a sauna 5 to 7 times a week. I just went, what? That can't be true. That's ridiculous. That's massive. So I started looking into that, and 2 to 3 times a week, minimum 19 minutes. So I do 23 because the number 23 it's a good number.
Yep.
And at 23 minimum, me and Paula, we do 80 to 90 degrees Celsius. It's tough going. Some days tougher than others. Again, when you get in there, things are different. And 2 to 3 times a week, minimum 19 minutes, 80 to 90 degrees Celsius. All causes of mortality from those reasons I mentioned reduced by 27%. And then if you use it 5 to 7 times a week, all those causes reduced by 55%. And there's a bit of argument about it's 50, it's 60, it's 55. If you told me it's 30, I'd have still done it.
It's damn significant.
Yeah. So I was just like, my dad got dementia. I'm interested in all that stuff. So I was like, all right, sauna. Yeah, the price, they're not even dear. So the price of it, I was like, I'm just getting a sauna.
Do you know, it's the one thing that I've been trying to work out in our little humble home with Alex is I'm pretty good. We've got a training facility. Obviously, things like cryo and floating, I'm getting from you. But a sauna is something I'm thinking, well, I only need like a wardrobe space. Like, surely I'll be able to get that in this house somehow, because that for me is kind of the things. I mean, the whole wild camping and what that entails this year kind of caught me out entirely, and what that's given me, and in a holistic sense of all of these things that we're talking about, just simplifying, connection. There's so much involved with it, just the humbling of having your water in your pack and just being on a mountaintop watching the sunrise with just everything in a little bag, and you can survive, and that's been amazing. The one thing that I really do want to bring into my life, which I don't have because I don't go to sort of use gym facilities anymore, which is a sauna, because I've read those studies as well.
Yeah, because in England it's not a common thing, and I think in the Scandinavian countries they say there's more saunas than people. Right? There's more saunas than there is people. It's cultural, so we don't have them. But if I did it, well, I am going to do it again, because I'm going to dismantle the one I've bought. I'm going to rebuild it back at the academy next to the cryo unit. So,
right.
Because I'm getting my plans for later on in the year, next year, whenever we're allowed, whatever happens. My plans are, I'm starting to get interest from groups like gyms. There's a girl fighting team from Milton Keynes, Muay Thai fighters. They want to come up. They actually booked, and it got cancelled, but they booked a hotel in Lincoln, and there's about 8 of them. They wanted to
specifically use the facilities.
Yeah, can we train in the gym? Can we use your cryo and your float, and we'll stay for the weekend? I'm like, yeah, man. So I'm going to get a sauna put in, and I'm going to aim but for that as well. So, the academy's not open on a Sunday, so people can come over, use the gym all day. You can float, cryo, sauna, use the gym.
Perfect, yeah.
So everything's there, yeah.
So what have you felt like? Have you entered using the sauna in a specific way? Are you going in directly after you've been cold? Are you using it one-off now and again? And
mostly together. I have done the odd session, just the barrel, and the odd session, just the sauna. But I'm trying to get them both together. It takes me so long to warm up after the water. If I don't get... So at first I was just going out of the plunge pool, out of the barrel, straight into the house, warm shower, trying to get warm back up. But I have, it took me about 3 hours the first few times. Now, that might change. I haven't given it time, in all honesty, to find out. But it took me that long to warm up, and the shivers were so deep and almost like from my skeleton. Like, it took ages. So what I do now is I get back in the sauna for a little while. Now,
Straight after.
But the problem is I don't sweat because I'm assuming my pores have all closed really tight from the water, and I don't sweat. And the sauna's so hot, my face just burns. So it's just too hot in there.
Right.
So like, my face starts getting really sore.
So right, that's interesting, because I've read, and you might be able to get something up, Aidan, I'm not sure, but I've read that when we talk about cold therapy, especially with the water, I'm not so much about, I don't know from the cryo, but I've read it for water, where the weight loss element comes in and the setting of the metabolism and things. A lot of that is to do with drying with your core temperature.
That's right.
As opposed to sort of accelerating it through towels or in a warmer, by literally using your core temperature. I don't know how accurate that is.
No, I think you're right. There's different numbers thrown around, isn't there? Like at 400 to 500 calories burnt, warming back up from a 3-minute cryo session.
Right.
I'm assuming there's a similar response from the water.
Yeah.
But it takes me, I'm instantly, I get out of the cryo and I'm instantly glowing, warm, feel fantastic. The water barrel, I'm subdued and deep shivers.
Yeah. Yeah, that's interesting.
I think maybe, I haven't looked into it, maybe I should be going through the deep shivers and seeing if I can shorten how long that takes, maybe. Yeah,
maybe, yeah. I mean, that's funny because I've had, what have we got? Have you found something? I've got the same experience using the water. Now, I'm only going in the water for a couple of minutes. I mean, we did it, Aidan, at the lakes, didn't we? I think the water was it 11 degrees, I think?
Yeah, it was around that.
We got in the water and we swam, and we were in there for quite a while. I mean, Aidan was at one point going to swim across to the other side of the lake district. I was like, no, I'm responsible for you. But when we got out, I get the same feeling as I do from the cryo, which is like we get back in the truck. This was like the last thing before we left the lakes on a camping trip. Right, let's get in the water. In the water, we had probably 10 minutes in there. We had a swim out, and we're in a big lake, we're swimming, we're not just dipping. So you get to move the body and you get through that biting point, and because you're swimming, it seems like you're occupied as well. It's not just like, oh. But when we got back out, clothes on, back in the van, we're like in the van and we're just like, just high.
Yeah.
And I get that from the water the same as I do from the cryo. I'm yet to get out of the water and have, that kind of deep, kind of misplaced, kind of like, whoa.
There's a girl, Lucy, that comes and uses a cryo. I've been using it a lot. She had a baby, and so there was a problem with the pelvis. I can't remember the technical term for what happened to her pelvis, but basically she couldn't couldn't play with the baby, couldn't bath her baby, couldn't walk very much, had to crawl up the stairs at night. She was suffering a lot, and 2 cryo sessions, and she's been a goss. She's back every week. She's done a video. It's on the website. She's crying. She's like, I carried my baby upstairs for the first time and bathed her and all this sort of stuff. So like really emotional sort of video. But she's one of the ones that's got into the wild swimming, the lost group, and she said their protocols, because there's I think there's an app and you can go, this river's safe today, the water level's safe, the flow.
Oh wow, that's interesting.
Yeah, and someone meant So if you go on that lost group, you'll find it. And she says their protocols are, once you're out of the river, you're not allowed to drive for 20 minutes. And then I said, why? Is it not like the cryo? She went, she was like, it's nothing like the cryo. She was like, oh, it was horrendous. Like, what she said was like, doesn't sound appealing, but obviously one of those things that you're trained to go through. But she was like, yeah, she keeps going back, obviously. She understands.
Well, it's so interesting how everyone has different reactions as well, isn't it? The body burns up fat and calories in the hours post-cryo session through the natural process of thermogenesis.
See, I'm learning so much about the cryo at the minute, especially with weightlifters.
There's so much going on. We're just getting cold,
it's amazing. Yeah, I know. So, like, if you're a weightlifter, crossfitter, or power lifter, performance, the best time isn't immediately. You want to do it after 1 hour. So, within an hour time frame, the inflammation caused from the stress response and the inflammation caused from your deadlift or your snatching or your CrossFit session, you want that inflammation. That's the response you want for the growth,
stimulation.
Yeah. You don't want to blunt it. If you do the cryo within an hour of that training session, it blunts that inflammation and stops what we actually want, the benefits of that session. But after a few hours, that inflammation's negative. So if you can catch it in the 2-hour window, that's about optimal. So I'm learning a lot more stuff, as I go along. I thought that was fascinating.
It is fascinating, and again, I come back to it. It's because this is what I'm meditating on. Is like the camping thing's done it to me this year. I've been seeking, like yourself, ways of just trying to, number one, find experience in this life. Experience things, but also one eye on longevity, wanting to be able for as long as I'm here. I want to be able. I don't want to seize up.
I don't want faculties, be able to operate on a.
I'm aware that this amazing meat wagon machine that we carries us around is fucking phenomenal. And you remember when you get a toothache or an earache, what a fucking disruption that is to your operating system. Well,
I was watching I see old guys now like in their 80s and 90s and stuff. I think I was watching John Anthony West again on Joe Rogan.
Oh
recently.
Wow, what a dude! And, rest in peace, John Anthony West.
Amazing. It was that. I think he's late 80s or was he 90s?
Yeah,
he's old guy. Yeah. And he was just sharp as a button. And he was a 3-hour interview. And towards the end, I was like Joe Rogan was pushing him. And he's going, "I'm running out of words now, Joe." And he's going, and he was like, but he was sticking with it. And I was like, "Man, you're a marathon runner." At his age, the information and just the constant 3 hours. It's hard talking like that. And
it is.
He was going in depth about complex subjects, and he just didn't stop. And he kept, towards the end, you could see he was like flagging, but he kept on. It was really. I was like, I want to be like you.
Yeah.
At your age, that is
still
a good
engaged, still participating, still
learning.
Yeah, still and growing and just living this life. Do you find harder to do the cold in the water or the sauna? Which one's more difficult to do?
Sauna.
Is it?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, it's uncomfortable. I want to get out.
It's like a slow death, isn't it, in the sauna?
Yeah.
Whereas in the water, it's...
Yeah. And so I want to get out of the sauna. I'm fighting the last few minutes. I'm like looking at the clock.
And how long are you doing in there?
I'm doing 23.
23 minutes.
Yeah. Just it's an easy number for me to remember. I do it with everything. 23. But it's I'm clock watching the last few minutes, and I'm like looking at it's just pouring off me, literally just pouring from everywhere. And then in the barrel, the reason I get out the barrel is I'm on my own. Paul has gone in, and I set my timer. I'm not bothered about the time, to be honest with you. As long as I do 3 minutes, I'm happy. I'm not like obsessed with it. More. The reason I get out is I'll meditate. I can't see the timer. It's down on the side, so I just know when I've got out what I've done. And I'll meditate, and then I'm like, I don't know how long I've been in here. Is that safe? Have I been in here 20 minutes? I don't know how long, because I've done meditations. I do a group in the morning where we meditate, and sometimes I've set the timer wrong, and then we've sat there, and then I've opened my eyes, and everyone's laughing. I'm like, that's an hour. I've got things to do. And I'm like,
shit,
turning everything off. They're all laughing. I'm like shooting off out the room, like, I can't be meditating for an hour.
Oh, you like Zooming that then or something?
Yeah, I've got a little group.
That's cool.
We've got a group. I started it in end of March, April, when the first lockdown kicked in.
Yeah. A
couple of reasons. One, it's the obvious benefits for everyone.
Yeah.
But two, I know what I'm like, and I didn't know at the time, well, no one knew, what lockdown meant or how long it was going to be. And I thought, if this is going to be 2-3 month job, I'm easily sucked into a couple of beers a night.
Yeah.
And I know the trajectory of that, the sleep patterns, the bad choices.
Keeps you accountable then,
yeah,
doesn't
it did, exactly that. And I know myself well enough these days. I just went, the next day, we got locked down on the Thursday. Friday, I contacted everyone, sent them all the links, said, this is the meditation group, it's 7:30 every morning, mic's off, and no one speaks, we just start, and I do a guided and we do a silent on a Sunday. And I've missed one.
Oh, wow.
I've missed one.
More power, man. That's ace.
Yeah,
that's lovely.
And good feedback from that as well. Like a girl from Manchester does it. So there's a few, not just all my students, like a few people from...
Right.
Not loads. Usually 4 or 5. There's a few more this morning, actually. There's about 7 on there this morning.
And what time is that, Mark?
7:30.
I might have to drop in on that.
Drop in, yeah. But yeah, good feedback. One girl off her antidepressants. And my friend, she lives in Manchester, and my friend's got a cryo in Manchester, Adam. And so I've said, nip over and see it. So she's doing cryo as well, and her life's changing in that direction. So another one like that. It's really interesting.
It does, you see. That whole thing proliferates, doesn't it? That, like we said before, the decision to go and do the cryo or give the barrel a shot or try the thing, even if you have a wow experience or a Jesus Christ, sometimes it can just leave that door open and those other things that you can find, and then they start to feed this whole new And then you can hit the epiphany level of like, whoa, the world is completely different to me now. Like, everything is different.
Yeah, all the things I've been told are bullshit.
Yeah.
A lot of the things I've been told about health and well-being, or it's like, why was we told that? It's like a lot of it doesn't make sense.
You can end up in a rabbit hole with it, can't you? So when we were talking in the first podcast, we talked a lot about the timeline, and we tried. I mean, we could go for another 30 hours, I'm sure, and we probably will over the years, I'm sure. We condensed a lot in. I'm interested. I think we touched on you being vegan yourself.
Not anymore, but was, yeah.
Yeah, but for a long time as well, and early doors, before it was, a thing. It was, when you've gone through your life and you arrived at martial arts, what has been the driving point for you, as we said before, to kind of find this giving? The services you provide all seem to have this in common, like providing something back, pushing something back, good vibes, good feelings. Does that come from the parties, the vibes, get-togethers? I'm really interested in that. And when did it? I guess it does start with the parties, does it?
Yeah, that meant that. I think so. It's just, it doesn't have to be the way it seems to be for most people. I've always thought that, and like when I took that decision to move into the truck and just leave my job. I worked in a factory in Horncastle. I looked around at everyone. I was like, I'm not doing this for the next 20 years. I'm out of here. And Paul was like, what are you doing? I'm just buying a bus. What are you going in it? I don't know. I didn't know people lived in buses. I think I can't remember if we discussed stuff before.
Yeah, people can go back and listen, and I'm sure they will, because it's very intriguing. But yeah.
Yeah. And I was like, we're off. We're just going. And then I met these other people that were like, or lived like us. And then we were setting up free festivals. And then there was, and there were big events. We were you're talking 30, 40,000 people in a field for 5 days with no permission. Regardless of what the news, all right, there's obviously everything when you get to that scale brings problems. But generally, most people were there for a dance, a clean up afterwards, and go home. And half of them back to their regular lives, and the other half, we continued to the next place and it was like I just stepped out of society, if you like, and didn't go down well with a lot of people. I mean, it was on the sort of in the firing line for the authorities, the public, and other travellers. So we were hated pretty much by all those three groups of people, which is pretty much everyone else. This minority who travelled around was, obviously the police confrontations were obvious, with the law and the legalities of land trespass, this, that, holding raves or parties or festivals, because there weren't always raves. I mean, rave music didn't exist when we started. There was no raves. It was just a stage on the back of a truck with bands for 3 days, and then rave was invented and came along. But yeah, it's just that we can do this. We can build this. We can build this little village, if you like, where Jez and Mary have just set up a little oven, and they're baking bread, and Gandalf's doing scrap, and so-and-so's, all right, he's selling acid, but he's his little shop, he's got his little sign outside, and he's got acid tabs for £2, and they're selling hash, and, so it's like there was a league, there's literally shops selling hash and acid, and pretty much it at the time. And I was just like, we've created our own subculture, but it just grew and grew, and obviously that's not allowed. It was not the right message to send to the government or public, and we were stamped on heavily. And but yeah, that when I left the travelling scene and entered the martial arts scene, and I tried dozens of martial arts. Not like, I mean, there's thousands out there. So when I say I've tried dozens, it's not really, And I just clicked with one style that we spoke about before. I've put these on deliberately to as a bit of a flashback. I don't really wear them too much anymore. There's a reason I used to wear them. I don't do it anymore.
We talk about that in the first episode.
It's not me, so it was. And, it actually looks like a yin-yang if you look carefully, Sam.
Yeah, I like it.
And excuse me. And yeah, so in the martial arts, there was the way we trained and the style and things that we did seemed quite we go to nightclubs, so everything I'd come across in the martial arts, not everything was, but everything I'd come across in the martial arts was fairly traditional, geese, the uniforms, and certain etiquette, which is it's fantastic. Everyone should do them things as well. And but this was more like we're meeting in a nightclub, we all have a big fight, and we've got a sound system on, and learn. Now we're out in a car park, and now we're here. And
Real world.
Yeah, and we'd learn lots of stuff like that. And a lot of it was choreographed, in all honesty, but a lot of it was very real as well. It was fairly interesting. And so I was like, people have got to know about this, So I was like, right, I need to get really good at this so I can coach this. And that happened fairly quickly because I was just obsessed and did that, nothing but that. And it's just that trajectory of, I'm reading about, Egyptian pyramids this week. Everyone in the academy is going to know about Egyptian pyramids. I'm going to teach every class based around an Egyptian pyramid theme.
Yeah.
But the same with the cryo, the same with the float, the same with the sauna that I'm going to put in. Anything that improves, that I think can help improve people's confidence, well-being, self-esteem, anxiety, all those things. I'm like, yeah, let's do that. Come on, let's push that out there. Mm-hmm. And yeah, it's just, it literally is just that. It doesn't have to. It's so frustrating when people contact me. And I have a friend, she horse. So I have a lot of equestrian people come now as well. Okay. Apparently there's a famous horse rider, horse jumper. He's like the Conor McGregor of their world. I'm not too clued up on it. And he fell off a horse and smashed both he landed badly, destroyed his shoulders. They told him he wouldn't ride again for a year. I might be getting his dates and timelines wrong and stuff. But he wouldn't be able to ride and we wouldn't be able to race that year and all sorts of stuff. Did cryo. Did several sessions of cryo, was back racing inside of 3 months. An incredible story. They've told it me a few times. He's written a book and he's written about it in his book. So he's a bit of a hero in the horse scene. And so there's a lot of... I've forgotten what they're called. Put the horseshoes on.
Oh, the...
Farrier.
Yeah.
A lot of farriers. They're bringing along their horse friends and equestrian people and jumpers and racers. And
just pull you forward a little bit.
Sorry, of course. And in true style, I've forgotten what I was on about. Why was I on about horses?
Cryo, the guy who fell off and he come on with the cryo.
Yeah. So
and the horse, the equestrian.
Yeah, what's so
people.
frustrating is there's a girl I know. She's in. Because I try and find connections. So there's a girl I know. She's in a really bad way. She had broke her hip, did this knee. Doctor said it's going to be 9 months. I know her really well. I've known Trina for 30 years. I used to travel with Trina a long time ago. She runs the horse centre charity out in Skegness. And this isn't uncommon. This is really common with my family as well. But she's like, and I said, just come and see us. If it don't work, free. Just try it because I know you're your friend. Just come and try it. Oh well, just not got that. I don't know what it is. I'll have some people visit me, and there's like a lady. She's had fantastic results from a skiing accident. Her husband's got a wrecked back, sat in the car outside. He won't come in. I said, but he's seen the results with you.
I mean,
and she's like, but he won't try it. And I'm like, okay, if you can't persuade your husband. So
yeah. So you've just had this kind of whatever it is that's led you, your own curiosity, your own journey has always somehow been collaborating people and good vibes. That's as simple as I can say it. Good vibes. What do you think drives that for you? Because when we did talk in episode 1, we talked a little bit about your trajectory as a kid and growing up, and your mum and dad fostered a lot of kids, and you lived in a really kind of, I sort of painted a picture in my mind, quite a bohemian but working class sort of solid environment, but free environment, which again, in this podcast, having spoken to a lot of people about childhood, like it seems to me that freedom, that sense of security and love tends to nurture an imagination or a confidence to at least go wherever it is you think you can go, as opposed to just staying here in the safe space with the people doing what we need to do. Is there anything that drives you, that you from internally from yourself? Like, are you fixing yourself in some way when you're fixing other people? Because I sometimes feel like that about when when you mentioned earlier about, I've had a great day today, I've done cryo, did this, I did that, and you kind of feel guilty about it, and you're on this question, you're doing all these amazing things and sort of hacking your experience. Do you ever have any thoughts about, am I fixing myself from anything, or am I just doing this for positive endeavour? Or?
Oh no, for sure. Yeah. No, I'm much better to be around now. It's a fucking nightmare.
Right.
It's just a relentless. I mean, Paula left me a few times. We've been together 34 years now. and she, like when I first started my martial art journey, which was weird, because it was making such a big improvement to my life, she left me because I was just so obsessed with it. I was just doing it all the time, but I was still partying. So you'd see me, I'd drop in at weekends or the odd day in the week to say hello, and I'd be off traveling and training and partying, and fly back from Spain after a training weekend to stop at a party in Luton on the way and come back. So yeah, I've gone through, and the reason I started training was because of a serious mental breakdown because of what we discussed last time, when you curled up on your chair and looked like Gollum when I was telling you.
Go back, check it out, trust me.
If you could have seen it, it was hilarious. Oh, it was so good. It was worth Paula getting shot just for that.
Being shot at in your van, and
So I'm definitely started martial arts because I tried different therapies, I tried different things, I met some crazy weird people calling themselves witches. I experienced some really unusual things that I don't know how to explain. A constant, because again for me it was, I was at the point all them years ago of, is this worth? How do I stop? I don't want to feel like this for the rest of my life.
Yeah.
How do I end this feeling of emptiness and paranoia? I mean, paranoia to the point of walking up Lincoln High Street and I'd have a thought, and the whole thousands of people, as far as you can see, all the way up to the Stone Bow and beyond, like would stop and turn and look.
Wow.
And I get paranoid to that level. And I get that now if I smoke weed. So I haven't smoked weed for 20 years, and I've had it a cut. Maybe I'm all right. Yeah. I have a split, and it's that I don't know if it's schizophrenia, personality disorder. I don't know what it is, but I would, if I did that now, if I smoked weed now, sat here with you, your lips would start going, and there would be words coming out, and it would all be horrendous, and it would all be cutting deep, and like really. So I'm on a massive journey of dealing with lots of stuff. Right. I think I deal with it quite well. Yeah. And people think, he ain't got any issues or apart from the obvious weirdo. But you know what I mean? It's like, he's confident and he's, because I will just literally go and say, and like in training, for a good example is I was training recently, and Dom had a problem with something in an area, and I don't care. I'll be like, oh, well, do it to me. I don't know. I'm not the world's best jiu-jitsu guy. I have an understanding of bodies, mechanics, leverage, this, that. And so we'll do a thing, and then it's like, oh, and once I feel it and I can feel the positions, I'll find an answer for that problem. Pretty much 95% of the time. And if I don't, then I contact my coaches. I'm just all right at that. But I have the confidence, if anyone's in the room, to do that. I don't care who they are. My coach, John Will, 5th Dan, 6th Dan now, maybe, BJD. I'm like, what if we did? Could we do? I'm curious enough to, and not self, I don't know, I'll just not.
Well, that balance that you face, because, again, we keep referring to the first episode, but people should go and listen to it because it's really, really interesting, and we do document a lot of what we're talking about now. Like your journey, when we talked about you being a traveller and starting parties, you were a kind of strange amalgamation of traveller because you're a punk, but you're a travelling community like gypsies are travelling communities, and you've got a whole ethos that's kind of, I would imagine, very different to gypsies per se, or ravers per se, or that genre of music, or this genre of traveller. You kind of amalgamated things and confuse people. Punk rockers are extremely expressive, style, hair, music, taste. So you invite eyes and thoughts and opinion, and then you that confidence that you've got to, and I've thought about this in my own life when I've looked back at some of my worst behaviour, when I picked on kids when I was at school. I got picked on and I picked on. And I can remember some of the kids that I would have picked on. I look at it now and I think, God, that was just a kid who was just brave to stick with wearing that long coat or that haircut or that style.
Not going to change him, yeah.
Yeah. And back then I'm thinking, I'm one of the jocks. I'm in the football team. I'm one of the lads. And, we're all got the same Adidas whatever on.
To that idiot.
And actually, and giving him all sorts of shit and making his life hell. And actually now I think, fuck, no, he was brave. He was just doing what he was doing. And his head was down and he had to walk past us for 5 fucking years. And, we probably made a lot of people's lives. And I think to myself, God, that strength to just be who you are, in the face of the culture and the expectations and the fashions and all those things. That does take a lot. But there seems to be this battle because we're so aware of that pressure. We're so aware of those expectations. And you going through what you went through, a lot of violence, a lot of, crazy stuff, the shooting, to arrive at martial arts. And from there, all of this holistic stuff with the therapies. Obviously, you were vegan anyway without knowing necessarily all the science that we know now. Just it was a feeling and something you followed through. At your place in life now, although you don't look it, you're, what, 50?
52.
52. So you're now probably living in a stage of your life.
I thought he was going to say successful. You don't look it, but it's successful.
You look wonderful. You look really good. You do look really good. Your skin's buoyant. I mean, and it makes total sense. We've just listened for however long to fucking sauna, CBD, cryo, floating, But I think for any listener or viewer at this point in this conversation, they'll hear positive outlook, positive perspective, good vibes, openness, willingness to be wrong, willingness to fucking, I don't know how many times you might self-correct, you say, I might have that wrong. Like that is a strength. That's an openness. That's that's that weird dichotomy I come back to, like that insecurity that we feel, the fear we feel for, are we doing it right? Is everybody, you've conquered that in the sense, as you just mentioned, that people think you're really confident and you've got everything down, and in many ways you are. But it's not to say that you're not.
There's still parts of me that
dealing with your
shit. Still got to push myself through things. I'm going to do that now.
The more we all understand that, the most confident people that we come across, the most flamboyant people, are still having those moments. There's still shit, piss and cry and wonder and, oh God, we're all doing that. And if we can take that away a little bit, and I think this conversation sort of nailed it on with those little thought processes of, I'm going to give that a will. Like, there might be a lot of lads who think, go in and float in. Lads that I've grown up with, I think that's daft. Fucking 40 quid for a bath. I'm not doing that. What do you mean you go into therapy?
Yeah. The word therapy for some people.
Do you know what I mean? But actually doing it and then realising what comes from it, like I say, not just that hour of that nice environment, but like what comes through you. Like you're literally defragging so much of your shit. And then you become a more, I don't know, a broader perspective that you allow to sort of, and then bestow maybe a little less judgment there, or you'll not allow as much judgment to come into you because you're more, I don't know what it is. It's all simple and it's all right there, but we're all fucking scared to death. We're all scared to death,
of course,
aren't we?
Yeah.
And just going after something. I mean, in the times that we've been in this year, and 2021 looks to be probably the same, where fear and questioning our instincts, questioning our truths, how we feel about what it is we're experiencing, it's going to be pushed to the limit, isn't it?
It is, yeah.
I really do hope we find a way, like you mentioned earlier, that we can get to the point where cryo and flotation and, wild swimming groups and all these things, they do permeate deeper into the culture.
A massive step. I think the world would change overnight if everyone just took the attitude, and I really do think just took the attitude of like, I don't know, but I can control this, this, and this. Just them things. I'm going to work on them because all that. Really?
Yeah. Aidan and I were saying before the podcast, it's almost like the internet, as wonderful as it's been in so many ways, like it feels like ultimately the ability for everybody to say everything all the time at once is like what can you trust now? Like where does the book stop with politics or medicine or therapy or sports facilities that provide this result or that, like this just it's just and I think you come back here, don't you? This is what I've said all year with the camping. It's like, by going camping for me and just putting a bag on my back with what the stuff I need, just the stuff I need. I don't want it to weigh too much. I just need what I need. I need my tent, my shelter, my water, my food, and a couple of other bits in this bag, and it's all there. And then we go to a beautiful place and we have to work hard to get to it. You see that up there, we're going up there, and it's a fucking, I tell you, hiking. We've trained, we do all sorts of hiking is fucking tough. Really tough. I thought, I'm pretty strong. Dave does it all the time. Dave McGregor, powerful Dave McGregor. I'm thinking I train. I've always trained. I'm pretty fit. I've got this bag on my back. We're going up this hill. We're only walking, and inside my mind, I'm at the limit of like shit.
Have you ever gone high? Have you ever done high altitude?
Not yet. I've only gone peaks and lakes and stuff at the minute. I've not gone high
I
yet.
struggled with that. I went to Colorado. I struggled with high altitude.
Really?
I didn't expect it. So I went back. I did it. I booked again. I thought, right, yeah. I trained for a year for. I know the tech. So the science in the high, the high altitude masks.
Yeah.
I've got a few. I've got the old original big rubber one that looks like you're at a bondage party or something. Not very friendly when people walk in the gym. I've got them on, but I still got it. It's good. It's sweat a bit inside it. And then they've got the smaller ones, the newer ones that make you look like Bane off Batman. Yeah. So I've got a few. I've got one that Baz Rutten invented as well that goes in your mouth for a different mouth breathing one.
Oh, I've heard you talk about that one.
Yeah, you end up pouring out the end of saliva, just pouring out the end of it. So it's a messy one. But I trained for a year using them. Now, the science for them, I understand, isn't actually really what you should be doing for high altitude training. But I thought, I'm going to do a year's training with these different devices and really push my body with them on. Made no bit of difference.
Really?
I think it was worse, actually.
Really?
I think I was worse when I went out. Yeah, I was up 14,000 feet, and I think I was worse the second time. It affected me more.
Wow.
Didn't get on. Ruin the experience because it was a beautiful place. It was in Breckenridge in Colorado. Absolutely mind-bending.
That's on my list, Colorado, and we've got listeners in Colorado, which always blows my mind. I mean, I love the idea of Colorado, and a lot of those states, Ohio, Denver, that kind of beautiful.
That's amazing.
There's so much in those states, in terms of beauty, the different variations, waterfalls to mountains, snow-topped mountains to beautiful, deep, lush forest and almost jungle.
Oh, I'd go up on the lift in my snowboard in the mornings, like first thing. I'd be there queuing up for the lift, first lift, straight up that mountain. And I'd get ready to board down and I'd just look and I'd be like, I could just sit here all day. Just sit here all day. Just sometimes I'd sit on a rock or something and just sit there and just look out.
That's what I've been feeling with the camping, Matt. Packing that little bag, the utility of that, as Jordan Peterson would say, utility, have utility, and having a little bag just with the survival bits in them, the work and the graft of the pilgrimage, if you will, of like going to that beautiful spot, then getting to that beautiful spot, and them last, for me anyway, the last like half an hour of hiking might be like, fuck, can't we let's just put the tent here, we're good here, come on, we'll keep going, and then you get there. You get that tent down, you take that bag off, maybe you have a craft beer or whatever it is you do, put the sausages on, who knows. But then you sat and you look and we don't even talk. There'll be long periods where we're just in awe and not just at the surroundings, but at the whole thing, the journey, the work we've just done, the decision we made to put the phone down and leave the digital crazy society world for 24 hours. It's almost like a meditation, like a peace. And this year for me, that's given me so much insight to simplifying, which I'm so pleased about because timely, it's been obviously so important to find something for all of us that helps our mental health, helps us cope.
Yeah, for sure.
And I hope this podcast, which I'm sure it will to those who find it, it offers some ideas that these things, flotation and cryotherapy, they're therapies that we spend money on. But there's lots of this stuff that we do that is in our hands. It's in our hands, isn't it? You can get in cold water, you can breathe. Your explanation of breathing, you even said yourself, why am I not doing it? I know I'll be doing it again after this podcast. Like I say, I'm really enjoying James's book at the moment, James Nestor, Breathe. Check that out. And I will be, off the back of that story, that'll trigger that little tick. Will be like, breathing, get my breathing going again, And people can do stuff, and we need to just remember that. I think, simple things.
I don't know how you do it with a podcast format because technology. I don't know, but something I've always been conscious of in my life is not preaching to the converted. So when I'm doing my martial arts, I'd take it into unusual environments, or like you say, the punk thing with the DJing and the sound systems. We'd drive into, we'd set huge systems up and marquees in woodland in Portugal, for example, and then we'd go and target the anarchist centres, the rave clubs, and we'd go to speak to like DJ radio stations, and we'd try and, because over there it's probably quite difficult for people to understand now. It's like England, if you're over 50 you'll get it. It was like England in the 70s. It was punks, rock, skinners, and everyone separate.
Facets.
Yeah. You was in a sort of a cult, if you like, almost. You didn't mix with the other generally. And it was like that in Portugal in the 90s. It was the ravers, the punks, and it was pretty much split. And we crossed that divide. It was like, what the hell? So it was a conscious thing. I mean, we transitioned into the music because it's the way a lot of the punk bands went. obviously we didn't just go, we're not punks anymore. We're DJing because this is cool. Chris Liberator used to drum for Back to the Planet. The punk band has written this techno track, and it's all right. Yeah. So it was all this sort of like blending and
transition.
Yeah. And it just threw, but that's the exciting thing, isn't it? Like you stand there on the mats when I'm teaching. My teaching style's quite unusual, you could say. I don't know, but I will bring things in about the Egyptian pyramids, or I will bring things.
Yeah, that's not a joke when you were saying that before. Yeah, no, it's literally part of the philosophy, which is what I love about the academy. Exactly that, Matt. The idea that the experience, and it's the same for this podcast. That's all this podcast is. And I did a ramble chat. I rounded up the year in a podcast that went out in early January, and it was, or it will be going out in early January. I've done that, look back at the year and realised not only have I had great time and I've had people on the podcast, it's been great, but I've learned so much and had an ability to look at things from a point of view and realise, oh yeah, not everybody thinks like that and all that. And then maybe the same topic with different people, how they've got different views and different...
Yeah, I guess because your guests are from a diverse background, that's how you touch the different areas, isn't
it?
Yeah,
and then we might go into the same topics and the same sort of core things come up, but in totally different ways, and you think, oh right, and it is a therapy, and it's been amazing. I've really enjoyed chatting to people.
Different people's perspectives, different walks of life, and I think that's.
And again, alongside water or breathing or just talking, it's dead simple. Being honest, being able to allow yourself to be where we are, which is again, that's quite scary potentially this year. Whether we can speak freely is going to be a tricky one. This whole time is going to be tricky. Do you want to hear about
my Facebook ban? It's a good one.
Okay, cool. Then let's take us into the Facebook ban.
I posted a picture of a shrimp, and I got an instant ban for 3 days because it looked like a dick. So I just went, oh, wait, 3 days, I'll just ignore it.
Is that what they said?
Yeah, just profanity or something. So I was like, oh, whatever. A bit annoying.
Was there any context on it, or was it just a picture?
No, just a picture. Someone said, how big's your winkle when you get out the plunge pool? Yeah. So I posted a picture up of a shrimp that looked like a dick. Got an instant 3-day ban. But I've got my brother. My brother's Down syndrome. Joe. So he's got an account, so I just used that. I thought, because I've got to keep the business, people interested in the business. In the middle of a lockdown, the businesses are shut. My only form of communication with a lot of people is Facebook. Yeah. So I was like, it's really damaging. And so I thought I'll use Joe's account. So I was doing Joe's account, and then I was like, hey everyone, I'm posting for Matt. Matt's been a naughty boy, just joking and stuff. And then I got my freedom back on Facebook, and I had a pretend argument with Joe. So I had Joe on my phone.
What, like a staged thing?
Yeah, it was me and... so it was both me. I had my account up and I went, hey, everyone, I'm back. Did Joe do a good job? And then Joe answered, which was me, going, I was better than you, everyone liked me. And it just went on, and my brothers, and he's going, my dad's bigger than your dad. I went, your dad is my dad. He went, he'll beat you up. I went, he can't, he's dead. And it just went on like this. And in the end I went, you're a very, very ugly boy. I said, you're uglier than a dog's bum. Bam. And I went, hey? And I looked and it went, you've got a 7-day ban for insult and a profanity.
What?
So, yeah. And I was like, no way. I've just had a ban for arguing with myself. So I went on Joe's page and then I put, my brother's just got banned for calling me looking like a dog's bum. He under-exaggerated. I'm far uglier than a dog's bum.
Oh, wow. Like it.
It's just the bizarreness of it all. But you realise...
Did you get anything back on that, on the retort? Did they say anything about that?
No. So I just left it. So but you realise, I've known this, that everyone knows this, and we sort of say it, but it's that thing when it happens and you go, my business, I've got the float business, I've got the cryo business, I've got the 23 CBD business, I've got Function First Lincoln business. I've got, and they do, a lot of my communication, advertising, marketing, and involving people is through Facebook, and you go, okay, now I've got to start watching what I say,
which is really
even
scary.
In jest. Because my businesses will suffer. You go, that's too much power.
Well, even if it, it's you having that kind of staged back and forth and creating a little vibe there. But even if it was you and Joe talking, that's two brothers. That.
Yeah, it's even linked, brothers.
Whether or not it falls in the bracket of what's now considered offensive or whatever, then there must be some.
Jesus, called him a dog's bum.
These are brothers. These aren't two strangers falling out about Brexit. This is two brothers just clearly having the crack.
Crazy, isn't it?
Yeah, I really don't know where all that ends up. And you mentioned that about those moments that you do have, you go, fuck, hang on a minute, everything's on these platforms. That's something Aidan and I, and luckily I'm only at 1 year and we're building up, and YouTube's probably our biggest community. You know, we're about to hit 3,000 subscribers on YouTube. I think we do have a Facebook attached to the Instagram, but I don't use it. I don't use my Instagram anymore. I literally just have the Chew the Chat Instagram. That's it. And we publish the podcast with our host, which is Anchor, which is the audio one, and then that pushes out to wherever it is, Spotify and all those places. And then this, and I've just had a website built. A wonderful company who listens to the podcast reached out and, you know, you need a website, you know, let us do your website. It's amazing. So we've got a little website up now. And I think what we're going to try to start doing is just building that website and trying to push our growing community towards that. And I think you're going to start seeing that more and more across the internet now. Because
can't give them, it's too much. That's too much control over someone's life.
We've got a podcast.
Businesses.
Yeah, we've got a podcast coming that will be released in January sometime with Cash from the Educate, Inspire, Change page. Now, I don't know if you're familiar with that page, but it's one of the big pages when those pages started to come around, the kind of alternative thinking about 8, 9, 10 years ago when they started to come around. Because I can remember thinking, when I was scrolling through Facebook and stuff, I can remember, I see it better now, but I remember at the time thinking, I'm spending more time kind of reading these kind of left field little articles like Brain Pickings or Educate, Inspire, Change, what it might be about turmeric paste or, just these different ways. I'm spending more time sort of here than I am checking the football score and the whatever it is. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Really pivotal. And they went on to become an enormous page on Facebook, like 3.5 million followers. Well, they were one of 70 pages, I think not quite a month ago, that just woke up to gone. You're gone because your misinformation or your disinformation or your counter whatever the arc has to be, and that's 9 years of his work and at 3.5 million subscribers. That's
a lot of work.
That's a livelihood, a lot of work. That's your income. That's your life.
Happening to a lot of people.
Just gone. Now, we can argue all day about whether that's a justifiable thing because somebody like me who was, at the time of coming across them, I made pivotal changes. Like it was a contributing factor to me looking at the world differently.
Deplatforming everyone and deplatforming lots of people for various reasons. And you can, Group A, you can go, yeah, we agree, yeah, get him off, he was vile, anti-transgender, whatever. Then they ban someone else from, and they're like, no, it just suits certain, and that's the problem, isn't it? I think everyone's so divided. It suits the agenda or the group, the tribal think. So it's like very few or not enough are going, no, hang on, it was a bit of a dicky thing to say, but don't ban him because that's the dominoes fall.
Just like that.
It just doesn't
your business.
stop.
If like you said, that's what we think it. Like if it's got that much, and it would be with this. I mean, we're only a year in, so we're in kind of good time to try to cultivate something. But it's one of those things that it's going to have to be it'll be culturally driven because we're so reliant on just going to Facebook. And remember when websites were a big thing? They still are. But going and getting your website done was like the thing. A lot of people now just straight to your page. Don't bother with a website.
But see, the guy that
straight to an Instagram.
Again, I don't know how much truth there is in it. But the guy that invented the internet is inventing a new internet, and he's not involved in Facebook and all those social media platforms.
Right, that's interesting.
And it's you in control of your own data. Right. I don't know how much truth there is in that. But
that'd be interesting. Yeah, it'd be interesting to see how long we could keep something like that up before we corrupt it and find a way to make the cheddar.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's a really dangerous thing, and I'm hoping, and I do keep, I'll use this opportunity to plug that. Send in viewers and people who are joining the podcast family, to head over and join the newsletter. I'm not going to be inundating anybody with loads of mad shit. I just want to get that database built up. Because I think as we move through 2021, we are going to see things disappearing that we want to be part of. And I can't help but think, when we are scrolling, we just go to the Instagram and we go to the page, and there's a difference between doing that and specifically going to the website that doesn't have that page, and then you go off and you go to that website and you find that website and you join that community. I think in the real world, that smaller communities, more meaningful connections, it's going to happen digitally because they're going to force it to happen because the censorship and the shutdown of free speech and free thinking
Yeah, but you're right wing if you say free speech. That's gone so weird and squirrely, isn't it? If you say pro free speech, oh, you're a right wing, far right wing, or you're fascist. It's like, wait, how the hell did we get there?
Yeah,
it's like
so quickly as well.
Yeah. It's just mind bending.
Yeah, that's something that we're really conscious of. When it's not to say that you're right or you're wrong. It's to talk, it's to communicate, it's to learn, isn't it? That's how you learn.
And if I say something stupid, pull me up on it. And if I'm intelligent or I've got any moral compass, I'll go, oh, okay. Yeah. Like I do when I'm training. You armbar me, I tap. Yeah. You win that argument.
Yes.
I'm not arguing anymore. It breaks.
Yeah.
It's the same.
And we all respect that.
Yeah.
That other thing that happens on the peripheral hive understanding and respect of that.
Well, people find the difficulty with words with that. If you put most people in that situation and they did a little bit of training, they'd understand very quickly. Most people, you get the odd fruitcake, but most people very quickly would, within the first hour's training session, would go, oh, you tap when you're losing, and you go, okay, and then you start again and you learn how to improve that. And
you respect that situation next time you arrive.
And you humbly accept defeat. And then learn how to not be defeated so easily next time and improve your game. But people struggle to translate that lesson to daily life. And if you say something that disagrees with me, or it's a direct attack on my complete core and my moral being and my existence, and it's like, rather than, oh, okay.
And here's an interesting point on that, to add to that, Matt, is that existence, that core, that physical action you just did there, is actually happening, or it's been removed because this is happening in this, behind this fucking whatever it is. We're doing all this here. So I'm sending out this opinion or this point of view or this part of the argument to you. Right, you see, yeah, there you go, have that.
Well, that's the other thing. Sorry, did you finish then?
What I was going to say is that removal of this, being in this moment, being in front of each other, the smell in the air because we're different humans, the feeling, the energy, the literal, the things that you were prepared to say to one another here compared to there are worlds apart. On top of what you just said there, that we've cultivated this thing.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, I genuinely think that most people would get on. There's obviously going to be fractions at the far ends of the scale that would like we'd have pitched battles with Nazi skinheads. Like them two groups were never going to meet and sit down and go, hey, let's talk this through. They had swastika tattoos and Luftwaffe eagles, and they came in the blood and honour t-shirts, and we'd have pitched battles with them many times while we were doing anti-fascist gigs to raise money for anti-racism, anti-fascist awareness, and and that was my upbringing. That was a common experience. But they're the extremes of the scale. They're not, most people are somewhere in the middle, left and right, whatever you want to call it. I don't understand all that. It's it's just common sense, or it seems to be. If then people meet face to face, and then one of them went, I voted Brexit, and the other one went, well, I voted Remain, they wouldn't just start fighting generally.
Yeah, and getting spiteful.
Unless they were then two extremes of the scale. Just complete morons. Most people go, oh, right, why did you do that then? Because I don't understand. Didn't it make da-da? And you'd have a bit of a conversation, and you'd maybe either go away even more hardened with your idea, depending on, or, oh, okay, I understand. Yeah, I get it. Yeah, that's gone. Yeah, it's not gone in real life. I don't think it's gone in real life because we have these conversations a lot.
No, but real life's shrinking as digital life grows.
Yeah, the perception of it all is overblown, and it's insane. I mean, it is insane. It is insane. But the perception of it all is that we are these two groups that just constantly are fighting. If you're Trump or you're Republican, Democrat, or you're Brexit, not Brexit, vaccine, not vaccine, COVID, not COVID. It's just massive split, and then it's like on the internet, those two groups are never gonna ever going to make any headway. And there's going to be no...
How does it affect us? So, over time and all the micro moments that this is happening globally, you mentioned that in real life, in real life we've still got this, but how much time have we got left where all this digital time, all this digital experience, when we leave the thing, we do move back into the physical world like we do. You're doing your thing. Then once upon a time we used to nip into town, or we'd go to the place or go to the restaurant. How long is it? Is it a decade? Is it 2 decades? Is it a generation before all of that impact of the digital does change? I think is it happening? Are we seeing a slight? Is it in anxiety? Is anxiety higher now because of all of this confidence or not in the digital communication or reading things.
Well, suicide rates are off the scale through social media use, aren't they? Especially for girls. It's increased massively because the way girls express.
It's got to be impacting that real world experience of us, because I mean, I've experienced it myself, Matt. You know, back in the day when I was pretty active on Facebook and kind of trying to sell my point and, you know, getting into it with people and being 10, 15, 20 comments down of whatever, right, wrong, Brexit, this, that, the other, blue, red, fucking tribal, whatever. You know, I can remember seeing a guy who was a guy from school, and as I alluded to earlier, sometimes I was the bully, sometimes I was bullied, and there was a guy who will remain nameless that was getting into it. We were getting into it back and forth some 15 years later than our school experience, you know, and I'd have been somebody that he wasn't over the moon about seeing once upon a time. And anyway, now we're having this back and forth, and, you know, we've all grown up and lots changed, but we're in this back and forth, and he's red and I'm blue or whatever it was. And he's fucking really spunky, like not, we're not just making points here. There's just some personal kind of veiled stuff happening. And I'm thinking, wow, this is strange. This is strange, because I'm just calling on my experience of this person, which I'm having to recall. I'm like, well, okay, that was how it was, but things have changed. But then I'm also playing with this idea that is this medium, is this. And then anyway, I see this guy in fucking Tesco's somewhere, fill in the blank. And we must have clashed 3 or 4 times over a period of time. And then I saw him in the real world, in Asda's. And I saw him see me, and don't get me wrong, this is a common behaviour in a supermarket, isn't it? When we're a bit busy and we can't be, fucking hell, right. You know, we're off down the other aisle because we haven't got time to chat. But I saw him, he saw me. And in that moment, it all came through. There's the guy, you know, and it all played out in my mind. And he fucking didn't know what to do when he saw me. Didn't know what to do. He was like, you know, like, and I was like, yeah, how you doing? You know, like acknowledging the weirdness, because that's the thing that carries in. It's I know it's weird. And half of me when I saw him was thinking, God, he was really spunky and quite personal. I mean, he might even have a pop at me now.
Well, I remember having an argument with a guy, a flat earther, when I used to argue on there. I don't anymore. And I was like, why? And anyway, whatever that was about. But it's got far worse. Flat earth's quite normal now. And I just said to him, I said, because he was getting real shitty, and I just went, Luke, I said, we're going to meet one day. This will just be awkward. Don't go down this route.
That's
exactly and he just went, are you fucking threatening me? And I went, no, I'm just saying we'll meet one day.
It's going to be awkward.
And it'll be awkward. I'm just telling you what will happen. It will happen.
Yeah.
That's just the way it's life.
That's what I experienced. It was, but because I'm thinking about this as well. So it's not just having that experience of that thing. I'm thinking through the philosophy of all of this. Do you know what I mean? Because it's part of my experience. I think it's a really impactful part of what's changing us, and I'm aware of it. And so I'm thinking about it a lot anyway. Then when I'm having a real kind of digital, real world experience of it within the thinking about this thing, and it was so strange because he just didn't. And I felt for him. I felt sorry for this guy because I'm thinking he's so uncomfortable. He's obviously saying all this stuff and coming across in a way that's not him. This isn't you. Why, you know? And then the anxiety you must be carrying now must be honest with you,
I stopped. That's one reason I stopped trying to. When they got heated, I'd type a bit faster rather than thinking it through. And I did come across as a bit of an arse. And then when I looked red and back afterwards, it was like it was really blunt. But I wasn't being blunt. It was like I was just trying to get my bit in, you know, before he started getting that heat.
Because the heart rate's up, isn't it?
Yeah. And it was just like, but it'd be Joe. We'd be laughing at the end of it, and we'd probably be like, ooh, you know. But we're like, I get really animated. Everyone says, "Oh, why are you shouting?" I'm like, "I'm not shouting. It's not." Just like this, yeah. But he came in and he did. It's like Alex Jones. I get like that.
Yeah.
But I'm not angry inside. I'm really enjoying myself. I'm animated. I'm like off, and I'm firing. And so I get a bit like that. So my words get blunted and shortened and like bap. And it's like, you fucking dickhead. And I'm like, it does look like, actually, yeah. I do look like
it's not a great way. I think at this point in where we are, and with all the problems we're faced with and all the challenges we've got to get past, I think the communication of code, sending code to each other without context in the environment of just fucking madness doesn't seem to be that effective. And I've really coming back to what we said earlier about habits, who are we, form of our habits, something I've really tried to come away from is texting. I'm trying not to fucking just be it feels like I'm at a point now where I've done it for a couple of months, and even when in the moments where I do sort of sometimes quickly text back, like I might send a line to you back, whatever it is. Yeah, studio, give me a ring, whatever. But even doing that feels really kind of like, do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I don't do it much.
Just
I do a bit more at the minute, but because of the way of the lockdowns, I'm having to communicate with
emailing and
different
stuff
people,
and typing, but actually my phone. But I've just been doing audio messages or sending videos, and it just feels so much better. It's so much quicker. It's so much easier.
You know, you've been sending me audio files.
Yeah.
And I've been going, I can't hear them. Can't bloody hear them. Now I can program websites. I can build basic websites. I can do quite a lot of stuff technically. I'm fairly competent with stuff. And I was like, bloody thing. So I just text you back. Go, Sam, it's not working.
You've said that. Yeah,
a few times. You don't hold the phone up to your ear like this at the end where the plug is. Apparently, you just hold it like you normally would, and the voice comes out where it normally would. Because I did it the other day, and I was like, where is the... Oh, I can hear it. I was like, bloody idiot.
Yeah, well, that for me has been, again, as part of my internal work and trying to work out and make myself a little bit less stressed and a little bit more effective as a communicator. I'm finding that much better, and it's amazing how it does, again, like all these things we've talked about today, you know, how that does permeate everything else. Like watching my wife, she's left everything. I mean, I've mentioned it. I'm still in the game, social media, because of my business or this podcast, let's call it. But watching her literal physical life change in the way she manages time. She'd be quite active with her stories and stuff, and she's just got all the time in the world to, and she's just so much more efficient functioning. Yeah,
Paula's not on any networks at all.
Powerful women, aren't they? Aren't they?
We're idiots.
Well, you know, this year, this 2020...
Act like Homer Simpson with the two. Ow!
That's what we're going to see, I think, this year. I think, you know, obviously we're going through a crazy time in terms of public health and so on, but I think what's really going to show itself to be what we're dealing with is actually this digital infiltration of the human being and how we are going to change the way we communicate forever. Well, we have been doing little by little, but I think we're going to see it big time this year. I think there's going to be a lot of change in that.
Everyone's resetting a little bit, aren't they? There's going to be a lot of
listen, there's silver lining as well. There's a lot of good things to come from this. I mean, even the lockdowns, you know, there's a lot of positive to come from it, to realise we haven't got to just be out consuming and spending and going to places, because, you know, I went over to Stapleford Woods the other day. It was like one of your parties was on there. Just rammed full of people just walking. More than ever, people always say hello. I think because we're aware that we're in this vulnerable thing and we're together, and to see other people, so many people outside walking and just hopefully reconnecting to, like we've said today.
I think that is, I'm noticing more people focused on health, definitely. I know there was like the
health is wealth.
What was his name? Joe Wicks. I know there was the Joe Wicks craze and people obviously taper off and but I think generally there is a more awareness of health, immune system. People, you can mention gut biome to a lot of people and they'll sort of go, oh right, rather than what the hell. You know, they sort of some basic stuff. People are starting to grasp the importance of you know, playing in the dirt, getting your hands dirty. It's definitely a positive.
Well, let's end it there, Matt. That is lovely. Positive. We'll send people to you. Obviously, as we know, we're about to head into another lockdown, so it looks like we probably can't use the services and everything. I don't know when this will go out, but cryolab.co.uk. Take us through the different businesses and where to get to them.
Check out Lincolnshire Cryo Lab. I'd say go to Facebook, but I can't answer you. LincolnshireCryoLab.co.uk, FloatLab.uk, and Function First Lincoln, and 23 CBD store. Yeah,
this stuff is, I mean, I feel just lovely right now. I think I had 2 or 3 of them sweets, and that 32 milligrams in there, and it's tasty as well.
Isn't it? But you know what makes this slightly different? You see the CBG?
Right.
That makes it it's got quite a high percentage of CBG in it. That makes all the difference.
Right, okay.
I'm experimenting with that a bit. I've been buying separate CBG and doing mixers, and it makes a big difference.
Well, we'll get into that then next time, eh? Well, listen, thank you, Matt Frost. We'll send everybody down in the links in the description for this podcast below. Stay safe.
And you, man.
Peace.
Take care.
Thank you, Matt.